in blisters, like the stone beneath my feet, where the demons fester and pray for our defeat. I see smoke on the hot wind shimmer, souls unrestrained in desperate need of the final hellfire to burn the past and set them free. Through the fear, through the heart that's broken, our world lies in wait for me. Every tear, every scar left open, this is the taming of the beast. Oh, end this war you started, oh, stitch this wound with bloodshed. You are my wicked victory. Draw me to the light, let the curse be lifted. We can rise above the roar, with the bite of every devil we felt before. Drown them out, let the fog give way to clarity. There is power in the strain of every drop I bleed. I am the venom and the cure. Take me through the fear, through the heart that's broken. Our world lies in wait for me. Every tear, every scar left open, this is the taming of the beast. I'll end this war you started, I'll stitch this wound with bloodshed. You are my wicked victory. Victory! Pain subsides, sins unpunished, made pure beneath the knife. Cleanse and suture, the great divine. We seal our future in a blaze of white. Through the fear, through the heart that's broken. Every tear, every scar left open, this is the taming of the beast.
Alrighty. Welcome in, everybody. How you going? Hello, everybody. Alrighty, let me hit play on the music before I get into saying hi to everybody. Welcome in, Rust. Welcome in, Hacker. Welcome in, Hollow. Welcome in, Datnum. Have a lovely look. Welcome in, Zave. No, you cannot claim to be a Crown Slayer fan. I'll call you out, sir. I know your secret. Don't make me do it. Welcome in, Oji. Welcome in, Necron. Welcome in, Celine. Welcome in, Marshu. I will say it's very funny. For quite a few days now, you just say hi by saying fuck. Ah! Thank you, that's very sweet. I'll get to that when I reach it. Welcome in, Ryuzaki. I know, thank you for the sentiment, Marshu. I appreciate it. Welcome in, Dave. Welcome in, Jolly. Welcome in, Cozy. Welcome in, Weiss. Welcome in, Sten. Welcome in, Elpnoa. Welcome in, Lunas. Welcome in, Boredom King. Welcome in, Skade. I'm back since a year ago. Has more paid content been added? No. No, we definitely... All you missed was me somehow hitting 1,200 concurrent subs, which expired 3 days ago. How you been, Skade? Skade, it's lovely to have you. Welcome in, Java. Welcome in, Chibi. Thank you so much, Dar, for both subs, and welcome in. You don't need to say hi with money. You can just say hi, but lovely to have you, man. Welcome in, Ancient. Welcome in, NPC. Welcome in, Necron. Welcome in, Celine. Welcome in, Shangri-La. Can I be Crown Slayer's wife? No. Thank you all so much for the looks. Welcome in, Nugihime. Welcome in, Alifal. Lovely to have you. Okay, let me know if I missed you. Thank you very much, Dar. That's very sweet. You don't you don't need to give subs to everybody. Welcome in, Void. Welcome in, Hypnos. It's wonderful to have you both. And welcome in, Datha. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yes, you do, sir. Just make sure you're being responsible, okay? Okay. Thank you. That's very, very sweet. Oh shit, chibis are disabled. Let me. There we go. That's all fixed. And thank you, Daha. That's very, very sweet of you. Okay, welcome in everybody. There we go. How is everybody going? I hope you're having a good one. I am feeling Virgil level motivated. For what? I don't know. I've been dicking around with coding. I've made the template of a game. I'm gonna still have fun with that. It's a tower defense game. Obviously. Is anyone surprised? Is a single man, woman, or child surprised that the game I'm making is a tower defense? Daha, give yourself a sub. I can't seem to do it. Yeah, Daha is immune to being gifted subs. Many have tried. Drawing some inspiration? What game could I possibly be drawing inspiration from? What? I don't play tower defense games. What are you on about? Hello, I'm Early somehow. Welcome in FP Song. Lovely to have you. I finally got Reed's sister. Massive congratulations. I finally leveled her. She's very, very pretty. Okay, so, today is the second part of the Archetype tier list, because last time I had some tech issues, which have since been resolved. Hello, South. Welcome in OWAP, and thank you so much for the sub train. Hype train, rather. Time to walk around menacingly. Base. That's me as Giant Ablana. I see Sten is also doing that as Giant Jessica. Hi, South. Welcome in, Yomu. How's your day going? It's wonderful to have you. Did our special hype trains? Apparently so.
It's big content, Mickey.
Thank you, Dar. That's very sweet. You do not need to, sir. Please make sure you're being responsible. Welcome in, Foxwater. Lovely to have you. Yes, so, one other update for people. So, I now have... It's paid content. Thank you, Dar. That's very sweet. Welcome in, Horror. I now have finalized dates for when I'm doing the week of account reviews. Ave Mujica starts soon. Yes, tomorrow is Ave Mujica pools. So, welcome in, Shadow. So, signups are not open yet, but I will be doing the week of account reviews not next week, but the week after. 6 account review streams in that 1 week. I want you to know that week, my entire life is going to be going to work, getting home, and reviewing accounts.
Please, chat, give me money.
That's it! The stupid shit I do because of my dumb bets. Welcome in, Windy Crows. Big Mainton downloading an update before Ave Mujica 2. Yeah. But that, like, Ave Mujica comes out on this reset, right? If it's next reset, I have a major problem. Any Enfield ones? There is an Enfield one later this week. During the week of account reviews, the spirit of that was Arknight's account reviews, so that will not include Enfield, no. This reset? Hell yeah! Okay, I finally read the dates correctly. And yes, you're very, very welcome to customize your chippies. And thank you, Daha, that's very, very sweet. Please make sure you're being responsible. So yes, if you would like a probable one-off of Enfield account reviews, come by this Saturday. Sign-ups to that one are open, same as the Sakiko pools. That is why the other ones are not. Welcome in, Hackiers! Chibi, Reed, Flame, Shadow, based. Any work stories you can tell today? So, things did happen at work, but that was mainly we're interviewing new people, not for my boss, my former super. That's very sweet. Not for the role of my senior who quit. No. A different person quit a year and a half ago. We're finally filling their role. And my boss has asked me, understandably, to stop taking regular days off, which is fair. It's just annoying. Because I like to use that for streaming. What's going on? Welcome in, Yuta! Yeah, so basically all we had was a line of people coming in for interviews, and man, is this what racism feels like? Not because of their race, but the instant judgment on their value of a human being based on just how they present themselves. This must be what being racist feels like, right? I just take one glance at them, and I can instantly rule out, like, 70% of them from getting the job. Welcome in, AVGS! Welcome in, Dicipta! I don't have time to goon to South Stream, sadly. That's fine. Thanks for coming by. And yeah, who here is excited for Ave Mujica? I don't know, let me go and ask my dad. My class had a real-life all-wheel today. It was for prizes for those who got their diploma. That's incredibly wholesome. Was it literally an all-wheel? Was the Narc Knights referenced? South, that's definitely racist. No, I'm not judging them based on their race. At all. I mean, I'm looking at how they present themselves. There was one guy who showed up who was chewing gum through the entire interview. And he kept, like, preempting things, getting in my way as I was trying to escort him into the secure building, and ignored our security protocols, including not using the swipe card to access. You know the visitor's pass swipe cards? He saw me use the swipe card, then tried to tailgate behind me. I'm pretty sure that guy's not getting the job. Little tip for everybody, if you're interviewing, don't chew gum the entire way through the interview. I know, crazy fact. Hi, welcome in Frozen. Got a friend who vowed not to log into Arknights until the Ave Bujika collab is over. Understandable. Did you fix the sniper archetypes? I added spread shooters. Am I missing any other archetype? I believe it was just spread shooters I missed. Oh, no? Yeah, now you understand what I mean, right? Welcome in, Viva! Thank you for the streak. Hello, Mr. Not Spy Streamer. You're correct, I'm not a spy. Outside of Originite, I think I have only roughly 60 pulls ready, including the free 10 pull. Best of luck to you. Sorry, I stuttered there because I just... welcome in, Other Shadow! Fuck! Welcome in, Wise Girl! Welcome in, Jester! Sorry, Viva. In response to your question, I remembered a work story about today that, Fuck! Okay, so, am I a spy? No, absolutely not. I'm still not a spy. I'm still not even tangentially related to spies. We just needed to reach out to intelligence for approval for something. That's not because what we do is important. That's because theoretically they might be using it while we're doing a maintenance. So we needed to let them know, hey, this specific period we're doing a maintenance. One of the things legit said, oh, when I landed on 1x, that's hilarious. I'm gonna chew gum while looking into their eyes the entire time. Insanely based. Remembered spread shooters? It must be the end times. No, I just had one slight oversight. How could you do this to me? Welcome in, Alpha! Welcome in, Epka. Lovely to have you. We needed government approval. Jester, I work in the government. I'm a fed. Of course we need government approval. South, will you do an Ave Mujika pull stream? Yes, I am doing that tomorrow. This time tomorrow, I'll be doing my pulls and viewer pulls. Or like, roughly, because I still technically don't start streaming for 3 minutes. Hello, welcome in, Shahim. How's your day going? He's a fed and a narc. What, you mean a narcoleptic? No, I have insomnia. What are you talking about? The skins, though, it's 5 of them. That's fine, I don't care about the skins. I mean, hey, look, all you need to do is be like me and have 900 Originium Prime saved, and then you don't need to worry about it. How to sign up for pulls? Shoot me a DM. That's all, same as usual. Seth claims not to be a spy, also had to apologize for taking spy stuff offline. What do you mean taking spy stuff offline? I didn't take any spy... Have you played Enfield? Yes, sir! And welcome in, Void! I am actually out of content in Enfield. I've completed every single side quest and collected every single gatherable. I have nowhere near enough pulls for this set. Help, best of luck, Shirin! The sign up for account reviews will open when the schedule comes out, right? Yes, they're talking about the Enfield account reviews and the viewer pulls, which are this week. Not the big account reviews. What tier is John Archetype and why is it C tier? So this was originally okay, and I thought it was funnier to change it to John Archetype. Like, when you think about it, marksman snipers. You know what? A better example. Pioneer Vanguards. That is John Vanguard. Protected Defenders. That is John Defender. So I just thought it was funny. Would people rather me change this back to okay? Because that's the only thing that's changed since last time. Did you trim all the medals in Enfield? No, not yet. How's your Gabriella pulls? I did 80 and got fucking nothing except a 3rd copy of Yvonne, and I am sad. I do not like her. She requires a specific team comp, and I'm not about that life. I'm all about brute force. How's your Hurricane Katrina pulls? Why would I be pulling Hurricane Katrina? You'd think John Archetype would be the pinnacle? No, John is average, like John Arknights. Weren't you missing a couple snipers? Yes, I was missing spread shooters and Deadeyes, but I did rank Lemoine last time. Imagine getting copies of Yvonne. Did I say Last Right? I thought I said Last Right. I got another copy of Last Right. I didn't get a copy of Yvonne. I'm sorry. John Archetype is the pinnacle. Fine, I will change it to okay. Also, welcome in won't be famous. I got 2 Gabriella. I'm going for 2 Gilbertas. I need 1 more copy of Gilberta, because I got one when pulling for Levitane. It's weird that Duelist Guards are the John Guard archetype in my head instead of Lord Guards. No, that's absolutely fair. Lord Guards are the good one. Duelist Guards are John Guard. You were missing 3? Yeah. One of those is on purpose. It was like a Skybreaker sniper. I cannot rank Skybreakers properly because I've never used one because there isn't one. Oh, great. We're off to an amazing start. My music has broken. That's fucking awesome. Let me see if I can fix that. No? Okay, who else am I missing then? Because all I did was added Executor. I know one of the others was Lemoine, and there's one other that, to be fair, that doesn't exist yet in EN that I have not added. Thoughts on Shaper Casters? So, if you look at the name of the stream, we will be getting to that. A proper one, Heavy Shooter, I think. I think it was Deadeye, in which case we did rank those, because Heavy Shooter's Schwartz, and I do remember ranking Schwartz. But I was missing Deadeye despite being a Fatu fan. I remember being embarrassed about that. Alrighty, you know what? Let's get started. You missed Deadeye Sniper. Yes. I stand by my ranking of fucking terrible. Deadeye Snipers are a very fun archetype. Are they good? No. They don't have high enough attack to one-shot any enemy. They attack super slowly, and they always target the weakest enemy, despite being notable for their high alpha damage. Hey, do you guys ever just like, you know how in RPGs you get really rare items that can insta-kill an enemy? You know how everyone wants to use that on level 1 slimes, yeah? You know how, like, if you ever get a Master Ball, what you really need to find is a level 2 Pidgey? You know what I'm saying? I'd rather stop playing Arknight instead of using Ascalon for real. Welcome in, Mr. Sloth. Incredibly based. Deadeye is fun, but their attack speed is ass. Absolutely. The only person who disagreed with you was Eltic. Yes. Okay. So sorry. Let me continue yapping a little bit. Eltic is editing one of my videos. I had to tell him, hey, I do think it's funny that when I mention waifu, you know, the 5-star specialist, you instead put Lemoine on the screen. But this is a guide video. You can't just lie to people in a guide. Alright, as a reminder before we get started, as always, we are oh wait, no, okay, let me do it in order. As always, I'm currently doing polls, 4x4 according to release date, to find everyone's favorite character. The reason for 4, YouTube limits you to that. We are on the 2nd from final, or 3rd from final of Specialist. Today's options are Ascalon, Tin Man, Crown Slayer, and Contrail. If you would like to vote, please go over to YouTube and vote for which of those 4 is your favorite. If you go over to vote, please also like the stream. It massively helps me out. Every class is doing what's expected of them. Defenders almost always tank, snipers are almost always physical DPS, but supporters and specialists are random bullshit. Yeah, that makes sense. To be fair, most supporters buff or debuff. I South, the new event boss is awesome. IS6 ending boss 5. I wasn't aware there was an ending 4 yet. Good day. Welcome in, Gigi. Welcome in, Pappy. Lovely to have you. Alrighty. Now, with all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's get... Actually, okay, one last tangent. And this one's embarrassing. On the drive to work this morning, I learned the lyrics to another rap song. So everybody point and laugh. The ending 4 boss is really boring. Are you playing on CN? I thought we still only had ending 3. If it's a Deadeye, I'll use Ambriel over Fartooth. I wouldn't go that far. If you want to use Ambriel, you can also just use Golden Glow. Har 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 har. Oh, welcome in, Freddy. Didn't know you were there. Okay, let's get started. Spread shooter snipers. Here is how incredible the spread shooter talent is. Attacks all enemies in range. Welcome in, Quintillion. So, spread shooter snipers. Here is their talent. Attacks all enemies in range, dealing 150% damage to enemies in the road directly in front of them. Now, it is very hard to fuck up true area of effect damage. Yet they did so consistently. And also with splash casters. It's actually pretty impressive. You want to know what else is impressive? The second best spread shooter is a 4-star. There are 5 of them. There are 3 5-stars, and every single one is worse than Pinecone. How did they manage that? It is impressive how bad they are at figuring out what makes a spread shooter good. Because in theory, it's an amazing archetype. Welcome in, Marshu. How much to bribe you to replace Flinger with Wishadel? $5. Pinecone super cute. She is, and also her idle skill is absolutely adorable. So, the reason I used Executor. Chen Alter completely ignores half of the restrictions. Aosta is all about buffing his own fucking chip damage. And not a single person alive can tell me, with a straight face, without looking it up, what Kitchusei does. Am I wrong? Didn't think so. Aosta not good? No. Aosta is terrible. His whole gimmick is dealing damage over time. He inflicts a bleed debuff. He's an AoE DPS, and instead of doing damage, he debuffs them with damage over time. Which, by the way, in Arknights, damage over time is always worse. In every single situation outside of Ling's event, damage over time is exclusively worse, and usually bad. Kitchusei is a funny S2, but overall spread shooters. Kitchusei is the closest they've come past Pinecone to an actually good spread shooter, and even then they gave her an RNG cycle of 3 buffs and only one of them doesn't suck. This is a physical Ethan? No, it's a physical Ethan who doesn't inflict blind. Doesn't Ifrit do damage over time? No, Ifrit just does damage. The damage over time is a secondary. Also, his damage over time sucks. Like, I'm pretty sure normal Cruz out DPS's this 5-star DPS. Anyway, so, FedEx, the reason I used him. He is an example of a good spread shooter. The problem is, his skill lasts 25 seconds, and it has an SP cost of 70. I don't know why they're allergic to designing characters well when it comes to year 1. But for whatever reason, they thought Executor would be way too strong. So we need to make him only use his skill once every calendar year. 70? Yeah, I know, right? That's at Mastery 3, by the way. 2570 is hilarious. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is legitimately the worst. Oh, no, not the worst. I think it is bottom 10 skill up times in the entire game for a character's main skill. In terms of a character's main skill, Surta has a better skill up time without healing, and she kills herself. Surta lives like 12 seconds, and her uptime is better. So yes, Chen gets around the core weakness by having absurd slows and debuffs. And a range extension. So, the core of the archetype is that they do more damage to units directly in front of them. And Chen removes that and extends her range. This is what we call in the business, oh shit, we fucked up with our game design, and we want to make a good character. So, in my opinion, they are, I would say, Quartz level bad. Are they as bad as Duelist Defenders? No. Not quite. But I would say they're worse than Quartz. I call it pulling a mountain. Yes, he was the most egregious, where he is literally just a Centurion guard. But it's damage over time. Gotta give it time, maybe like 2 business days. I want you to know that Ascalon's damage over time still sucks. And she's Ascalon. She is better than every other damage over time character in the game combined. And it still sucks.
Give me money.
Welcome in, Pestana. Lovely to have you. Why half of these archetypes are awful? Because we're front-loading a lot of year 1 archetypes. Like, think of it this way. Hoshiguma's archetype hasn't gotten a 6-star until a month ago. Blub, welcome in, Taxi! That was a very, very fun stream, hey? I had a lot of fun. Even though it was a bit weird, because there were so many people I didn't know, so I resorted to being a bit antisocial, which just is what it is. But how you going, man? Lovely to have you, and thank you for paying your taxes. He fixes the archetype by not being a part of it? Yes! A lot of characters do. An example of someone who doesn't is Monster. Monster is one of the recent incredibly strong unit who explicitly plays by the rules of her archetype. And I really love her for that. That is part of the reason I really love Monster. Ulpi fixing the 0 defense issue by being broken. Ulpianus has defense but better. Gotta go soon, sadly. No worries. Thanks for coming. Okay, now next up, we have Besiegers. I can guarantee you they won't be an awful. However, attacks the heaviest enemy first. And they do physical damage. Can anyone spot the issue? Do I need to elaborate? So there is, how do we say, a high correlation between enemies wearing heavy armor and having a high weight. Meaning, these are physical units who prioritize defense. Every enemy they prioritize has high defense, making them inherently bad at killing them. However, they do have a stat spread reflected of this. They have excellent modifiers, excellent attack stacks, and all of them function. Even Tota functions. They managed to give them a stat spread that makes it not terrible. But much like W, the archetype itself is an inherent flaw of their kit. Typhon is the only one who became meta, and she does so by ignoring 50% of the enemy's defense. Having a physical unit prioritize high defense enemies, it's a bit of a fucky-wucky. So they're not awful, they're still functional. They clearly worked around that, but it is a very distinct, defined weakness that every single one of them has, and every single one of them would be better for being a different archetype, even not counting their absolutely stupid fucking range, which is always inconvenient. The trait works with Rose's module? Yes, but Rose's module, much like Typhon's passive, is them going, oh yeah, okay, we do need to give them some extra juice. Like, generally, if they have to give an entire top-tier talent on a character's module, that means the character sucked. Welcome in, Zed the Hero. 50% ignore, what the fuck? Exactly. Objective tier list? I'm doing my best to be objective, yes. Not Jew, the new 5-star on Sienna's dog shit. Listen to me, Sten. They managed to make Agent Vanguards bad with Snegrochka. Sometimes you can be at the green, directly in front of the hole, and take a swing and a miss. My short-stack waifu is bad tier? Yeah, well, maybe I should do a Valentine's tier list. Typhon would be quite high up there. Except for the fact of, like, okay, actually, look. Genuine question. Let's assume you were isekai'd into the world of Arknights, and you started dating Typhon. And it went really well. Really, really well. How would you sleep with her? Like, I'm not talking sexy times. I mean, like, how does she lay in a bed? Have you seen the fucking size of her tail? She definitely can't sleep on her front because of her enormous tits. She can't sleep on her side because of her horns. And then she has a massive body-sized tail. I mean, literally sleeping. She sleeps standing up like Reed. She really must. Yvonne style? Yeah, like, legitimately. They must be sleeping standing up. What race is she? She is a sarcasm. Just attach the tail. It is not a butt plug, Zave. I know, despite your obsession with it. Just take off the horn. Fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. I don't even mean sleep as in sexy times. I phrased that badly. Sleep sideways. Her horns protrude out to the side. So that's not possible. Because that would butcher whatever pillow she's laying on. She could sleep on her side belly. No, but like, she can't because her horns are in the way. And her boobs are in the way. So she can't. She'd need to like turn her head 90 degrees. Okay, anyway, moving on to something much more important. Rosmontus. So, is this archetype interesting? Yes. Is this archetype good? Sort of. This is an interesting one. Flinger snipers do have inherent weaknesses, but their shockwave is legitimately good. The shockwave is basically the best instance of ranged AoE damage we have, because it guarantees to apply the AoE to where the enemies are, which means grouping enemies anywhere, boom, problem solved. It's also delayed, so the shockwave is based on where the enemy was when they were hit. So if they keep moving, that's fine. Other enemies walk into range. I would say, despite their weakness of not being able to hit drones, I would actually put them in great. They have a really solid spread of stats. They have a pretty good range, high attack speed, and just sort of inherent use case with their multi-hit. Their multi-hit is just outright good. Like, without their multi-hit, they are still good units, and their multi-hit is just extra attacks on that. I do actually legitimately think this is a good archetype and a good example of game balance, excluding Wishadel for obvious reasons. Flingers are good for hit count. Not as good as dedicated hit counts, but yes. But no, this is an archetype where they have defined weaknesses, but they also have defined strengths. I think the problem with Flingers is that Rosmontus is a bad Flinger, and it was hard to balance around her, and they made some mistakes. But Leonhardt's good, Terra Research Commission is good, and Wishadel is Wishadel. Even without Wishadel's S3, Wishadel would also be good. And then her S3 is just an accessibility mode. Welcome in, Yanko. Rosmontus literally just hits you with bridges. That she does. It's mid at best. They're only great at DOT and low defense enemies. Part of the... I do get where you're coming from, but even against high defense enemies, they usually hold up much better than other snipers because of the multi-hit. That's sort of what I'm getting at. They have a defined niche in the sense of snipers. The problem is they do have defined weaknesses, and usually casters are better, but not always. They have a lot better range than any caster, and a lot of the times, just because an enemy has decent defense doesn't mean you want to use arts. They do feel that sort of midway niche. So I would put them the lowest on great, but it's mainly a case of, like, Schwartz is the only one of her archetype good because her numbers are just absurd. Everyone else sucks. This entire archetype is good. It's just, they're not, like, super amazing. It's just, every character in this archetype that comes out has been good and has defined use cases. So if nothing else, it's well balanced. Even if I would, it's just a hard one. I feel like there's a gap between them and the okay, even though I feel like they're not quite great. Welcome in, Orano. Grey Altar good? Yes. Hunters should be higher than Charger Vanguards. Not 100% sure on that, because the only good hunter is Rey, and she gets around that by ignoring it. Leonhardt, you know what I meant. I meant Grey Altar. Welcome in, Haxel Bronya. Lovely to have you. Myrtle is S tier based. No, this isn't a character. This is the archetype. It's time for another row named Good. Sure. Okay, let's add. What do we want to name? What do we want to name this tier? What do we all want to name this? How about cat? Rosmontus goes in the cat tier. There. Is everybody content? All Charger Vanguards are dog shit except for Fang. Yeah, but they're also basically exactly what you would expect of a Vanguard. They are John Vanguard. It's mainly a case of they've been power crept by other Vanguards rather than them sucking explicitly. You only okay tier? That's because I'm ranking the archetype, not the character specifically, Cozy. Welcome in, Mesugaki. Lovely to have you. Mid tier? Yeah, okay. How about that? Cat mid. Because a lot of people misread that as cat made. We will made it so I had to delete Arknights, now I'm having withdrawals. Oh, welcome in, Sparky. I'm sorry to hear that. Also, welcome in, Dwight. Welcome in, Highvan. Lovely to have you. Alrighty, now, next up, we have Hunters. So here is the problem with Hunters. The only thing they need to do to completely fix the entire archetype is make it so that when they run out of ammo, either they reload the entire magazine, or they reload one by one until their ammo is full. Why in the actual fuck did they make it so that they stop, reload one bullet, and then shoot? This is like if instead of his S3 being good, Mlynar's S3 was a charge skill where he would swing once, reset his talent, and then go back to doing nothing. It's manual activation Mlynar level shit. They attack very, very slowly. They half their own attack speed. And the only way they were able to make a good hunter is giving Rey more attack stat than fucking Jesus. And also giving her a talent where she reloads 2 bullets with her module. I don't think this is as bad as, like, spread shooters. At the end of the day, they hit hard, and they're good until they run out of ammo the first time. I would put them just below brawlers, personally speaking. That is where I would put them. They always feel clunky, and they are very rarely worth it. Rey specifically is good because her absurd stats and multipliers, and the fact that she ignores half of her archetype. Ammo, that's not ammo, exactly. I have a class at 8 a.m. Please do sleep. They should just make them do decreased damage when out of ammo. Exactly! They just need to make Hunter Archetype reload the whole mag. Yeah, there's so many fixes! Welcome inside! Lovely to have you. This is your annual reminder to check yourself for testicular cancer. So true, so true. Make sure to grope your tits. So true, bestie. What's Jesus' attack stat? Higher than you would expect, but lower than Rey. Cold Shot isn't that bad. No, none of them are bad. It's not that the characters are bad, it's that the archetype sucks. The characters who are good in this archetype are good despite the archetype. The archetype is terrible. The archetype is they can't attack and run out of attacks. Platinum talent would be good for hunter snipers. Yeah, exactly! Give a platinum talent! They just don't synergize. There's no upside. It is just a major downside for no reason. Welcome in, Matters. Lovely to have you. And welcome inside. I hope you're doing well. Clunky, incredibly clunky. I'm very glad they tried out new things, but this is a case of... This is a very common thing in game dev as a whole, but not something Arknights does very often. You will also see this in movies quite a bit. This is what we call subverting expectations. Where an artist decides, hey, instead of what would make sense intuitively, let's change it to be cooler art. So other forms of this are, for example, Arknights' new event UI.
Give me money.
The old Arknights event UI, where everything was separated, was incredibly intuitive to the player. Here is the main story, here are the important side missions, and here are the other side missions. The new one is analyze the movements of the Summer Beats or Rhodes Island. What the fuck does that mean? That is form over function, and that is what hunters are as well. They thought it would be cool to have them reload one at a time, even though intuitively it would make more sense for them to reload an entire magazine, given the player's assumed understanding of how guns work. And then they didn't work around that at all, and it's terrible. It's actually somewhat solid. It has potential. They just kind of fucked up, and I don't think they will ever be able to make a good hunter unless it's something like Rey, where they just give her disgusting multipliers and let her ignore half of the downsides. Like, it's not like Monster... I mean, they did it with Monster Archetype, which I was impressed with. So they could, but I would be very surprised if they managed to make a good hunter. It is just that the hunter class itself is terrible. Maybe Terran guns built different. They are. The context leaves me blind about this. Oh, don't worry. I was just saying, make sure you check yourself for testicular cancer. Cold Shot talent actually synergizes with the S2. Yes. But then they abandoned that because it's still a major downside. So it's like Cold Shot minimizes the downside slightly, but it still exists. Operators use crossbow or a sniper. They don't use a magazine. They manually insert bullet to chamber. Yeah, but then they'd be reloading each shot. They wouldn't have a magazine of 8 bullets, of 8 arrows. Okay, now next up, a much more fun one. Loop shooters. I think... Oh, hydrate? Yes, sir. I think loop shooters are the most fun new archetype they have done in years. This is an example of very basic but incredibly cool. It is intuitive. You can see what's happening very, very easily, and it has a lot of room for growth with the individual characters. They can only attack while holding their boomerang, which takes time to return. That is their trait. Then it is based on how far away the enemy is. This inherently is just an extra minor layer of tactics and strategy for the player to consider in a way that isn't a major debuff. As enemies get closer, they will start shredding them. As they're further away, they will not. They will very much struggle. So you need to carefully consider where to place them, but it's not like they're useless. They're just slightly less effective as a default, and then you can use them in clever ways to make them very, very good incredibly reliably. This is what they were going for with Deadeye snipers, like Schwartz. They kind of missed with Deadeyes because the row in front of them is very hard to balance. Most maps don't work with this. The way loop shooters range work absolutely works with it. There is always a use for a loop shooter, but for them to properly shine, you need to set them as offensive units. And then you know what they did? They actually gave them decent tankiness so that they don't instantly die. Wow! What an idea! Welcome in, Amir. Lovely to have you. So, as a whole, I think they are excellent. I don't think they're healing defender terms of excellent. I don't think they're that strong. But I think this is an example of adding an archetype with a unique feel that doesn't have outright debuffs. Instead of restrictions, as in they can't do this, they instead get buffs and are better at certain things. Not perfect, but she works? Yes. Whereas Calzi, I thought she was in Kato category. This is, Calzi is a normal medic. We're not up to medics yet. So, actually, Loki, why the fuck is Calzi counted as a normal medic? Legitimate question. Can anyone explain to me why Calzi is a normal medic? She has 5 tiles of range. So even as a baseline, no, she's not. Also, she can heal enmity units. She said so. I guess that is true. There aren't top 20 operators in the game. I would agree, but I think even Bridget is really, really good. Bridget's problem is that Caper is almost as good as Bridget and is drastically cheaper. The entire archetype is good. I'd be very surprised, like with Agents, they'd have to really try to make a character of this archetype who isn't interesting to use and is actively bad. It's small range, so true. Welcome in, Nathan. Lovely to have you. Next up, by the way, I am skipping Skybreakers. The only Skybreaker is a 5-star. That is on CN only. From what I understand, they are reverse contrails. But like, I haven't tried that myself. I can't judge them. Welcome in, Darlin. Welcome in, Void. Cal should go into the cat maid section. That's not what it is. This is archetype. I'm not doing characters. Anyway, next up we have core casters. These are John Caster. I have used KB for this reason. KB works completely with her archetype, which is just dealing arts damage. You want to know why I didn't use Aya or Logos? They both do some form of true damage. So does KB, when you really think about it. But this is John Caster. This is default caster, so they get a lot more leeway in what they can and can't do. They don't have any restrictions they're working around. This is just a default arts unit. As a result, it varies a lot from dogshit, whole yak, to god tier, aka Logos. Whole yak not even included in the conversation? No, she's not. So, in my opinion, the archetype is the epitome of okay. A unit who is a core caster is not good or bad based on their archetype. They are good or bad solely on their own merits. If you're a core caster, we have no information on how good this unit will be. If they came out tomorrow and said the next 6-star will be a core caster, we're not going to be going, oh great, the next Logos. We're going to be going, oh, is this the next Holhiak or the next Logos? It could be either. It's not like Mlinar, where they're just stat sticks. It's not like Vanguards, Agent Vanguards or Lord Guards, where because they're stat spreads, we just assume they're good until proven otherwise. Core Caster tells us nothing. It is John Caster. Peak of mid, exactly. They are the gatekeeper. You must be this tall to be better than John Caster. Mystima carries the AoE caster? Yes. Now, onto Splash Casters. Here is what they do. Deal AoE arts damage. It is legitimately embarrassing how bad they managed to make the archetype of characters who, and bear with me, do AoE true damage. Because that's what arts is. Up until like 3 years into the game. And they suck! However, in the dev's defense, there is a reason for this. Back in Arknights' oh, catch you around, rando guy. Thanks for coming by. Back when Arknights was first releasing, the standard defenders had 5 block. Arknights used to have many more enemies, and it was expected that you would stall them. Splash casters used to be doing an effective 40% more damage because there were usually 5 enemies in range instead of 1 or 2. However, because they didn't change them between the beta and the launch, they suck. They attack very slowly for no damage. However, they are not utterly unfunctional, making them not as bad as duelist defenders. They are DPSs with slow damage and bad AoE, so they are worse than spread shooters. However, they are not yet as bad as duelist defenders. They also have some forms of CC in their kit, yes, but that is not inherent to them. That is just something that they happen to have. It is not inherent. It is not guaranteed. There will likely eventually, like 12F does.
It would be Aya South H3.
If a Splash Caster was good, it would be Aya. Yeah, because Aya attacks quickly and has wider range. They are basically... This was the easiest slam dunk possible. Welcome in, what? Lovely to have you. Next limited is going to be a Splash Caster that increases her attack speed and completely vaporizes their archetype. Possibly. I want you to know that Pith is touch level broken, but because she's a Splash Caster, she's still bad. Marcial S2 with a fat attack speed buff is pretty usable though. Yes, that is an individual character being usable despite her archetype, not because of it. The archetype is very low attack speed, low damage, and low splash damage. There are DPS who specialize in doing little amounts of damage. Marcial gets around this by upping her attack speed, despite them having one of the lowest attack speeds in the game. Ayo, welcome in Nightmare, lovely to have you. I love Splash Casters. I want you to know, I've been using Mystima since before modules existed. She was my go-to caster. I would bring her and KB. Before modules, I was still dedicated. Why is my Hoshi awful? It is the archetype, not the character. I love the archetype. I love arts defenders. But a DPS defender who does no damage and can't tank. Like, yes, Hoshi is good. But Hoshi is good because she just insta-kills everything and turns everyone immortal. If Flashcasters had something like Fling a Sniper, it would be above OK tier. Yeah, but their range also sucks. They have bad range, low attack speed, incredibly low attack, bad SP costs. What the fuck? She's the GOAT. I agree. I love Hoshi Alta. This is the archetype as a whole, not her. Centala's S2 is cool, but held back by Splash Caster. Yes, inherent flaws. Now, here is another one that will probably surprise people. Blast Casters. You want to know something fun? Blast Casters as an archetype are terrible. It is a really bad archetype. It is Splash Casters, but with an even worse range. How the fuck did they do this? It is more expensive splashcasters who can't hit their enemies. The only reason Ifrit is good is she ignores 50% of the enemy's res. And her stats are absurd. She has disgustingly good multipliers and ignores half of the enemy's res. She is not the standard. And if you're wondering why it took them so many years to create a second Ifrit, that's because Ifrit was good, not the Archetype. The Archetype sucks. They should give Ifrit burn. I agree. Ifrit is strong because she's Ifrit, not because she's a blast caster. Exactly. She's strong because she's Ifrit. Her Archetype has nothing to do with it. They are literally just worse splash casters. It is splash caster, but worse. How did they manage this? And then they even gaslit everyone into thinking it was a good Archetype because Ifrit was the only member. Not ignores, reduces. Yes, it is outright better. It makes Arts as a whole better, and Arts is already incredible. Now, speaking of bad archetypes, it is actually impressive how consistently terrible they make archetypes that are casters. So, did you know there are 3 archetypes in the entire game, only 3, which have been directly buffed? I'm not talking individual characters. I mean the archetype as a whole was changed. Can anyone remember these 3 archetypes? Genuine question. I'm curious. A lot of people know 2. Not a lot know the 3rd. Are you Ifrit because you're the strongest, or are you strongest because you Ifrit? I alone am the homeless one. I can't say about Blastcast and never use them. Yeah, because it's just Ifrit. Passenger? Yes. It is Geek, Chaincasters, and Abjurers. Now, here is the impressive part. They massively increased the slow of Chaincasters. They also increased the damage buff, the damage bounce, so that it no longer shreds itself to 0 damage, effectively giving them about 40 to 50% extra effective attack. And they still suck. Think about that. This archetype is so bad, they removed the downside, and it still sucks. This is like if they took Hunter Snipers and removed the ammo mechanic, and they still sucked. Welcome in, Dr. Shitalot. Lovely to have you. Lazy is actually quite good, not gonna lie. I'm a massive Lazy fan. I use Lazy frequently. She is not good. She is not good. I use her all the time. She sucks. I tried so hard for so many years to make a joke about pretending Lazy was Passenger and Godsinger for various different memes with friends. And every single time I bring her, she feels terrible. They're alright, but need heavy investment, especially the module. Yeah, and then they still are mediocre. They must have meant the other Lazy. Other Lazy's good. This archetype, now, if we're talking launch, this archetype is worse Blastcaster, which is worse Splashcaster. However, because of the buff, in my opinion, they go up to here. They buffed the archetype as a whole, and that only made them really bad instead of one of the worst in the game. Early passenger pullers in chat? Yes. I remember early Piss Ginger. He was absolutely fucking terrible. He couldn't kill a wave of slugs. Welcome in, Lily Toad. Okay, so yeah, by the way, as a reminder for how bad this archetype was, Passenger specializes in slowing and doing AoE, meaning he is a wave of weak enemies specialist. That is what he is good at. That is the core of his kit. On launch, he couldn't kill a wave of normal slugs with 2 charges of his S3. They would survive and leak. That is what he's good at. I recently got Piss Ginger from Top Up. I'll build him when his RA mod comes out. It is so funny that he's getting an RA mod. The slugs were OP. That's how Katao-san is alive. So true. Maybe he was having an off day. How come Flinger mid and not bad? Flingers do fill a weird role where because of their range, they are useful. They are very wide-reaching snipers who can cover 2 or even 3 lanes and be a sub-DPS. They fill a very weird niche of the mid-range of where you still want Fizz rather than a caster against relatively tanky enemies. Their archetype of Aftershocks is also actually pretty solid, especially because it can hit flying enemies because fuck you and it's not consistent. How's the 2-star welcome in random viewer. So I'm doing archetypes. Noircorn is representing Protector Defenders. So he's just representing the archetype, that's all. I joined the game and walk in the dust and a 10x on Passenger, got April and she carried me, exactly. Flingers attack twice. Exactly. Aftershocks basically double their damage. It's actually very, very solid. Like, their normal hits are very good, but the Aftershocks are 2 instances of 50% of their attack, aka basically double. Where's the summoner with the summon tag at? I mean, later. that would be there. Next up! We have Mecha Chord Casters. Now, despite popular belief, and I'm expecting a lot of confusion over this one, Mecha Chord Casters don't have global range. Welcome in, Navo! How's your day going? Wonderful to have you. So yeah, no, they don't have global range. That's not part of their kit. Here is part of the Mecha Chord Casters kits. They control a drone which locks onto an enemy. If it attacks the same enemy, their attack increases. So they are burst damage dealers who do arts damage and want to lock onto one specific enemy before moving on to the next one. They do not have global range, they don't apply fear or slow, and they don't have res shred. It is specifically Golden Glow and Lapland who are absurdly good. However, the archetype as a whole is pretty solid. Why is my Hoshi Alta bad? Oh, welcome in, Kautsa! The archetype as a whole is bad. Arts defenders suck. Hoshiguma is good despite her archetype, not because of it. Wow, people really can't read. This is an archetype tier list. I'm ranking the archetypes. I'm not ranking the individual characters. Don't talk bad about my daughter, Click. Click is okay. I will say, however, this is a DPS type who specializes in dealing with dangerous enemies and is good at it. Even Minimalist and Kujera are solid units. I would say overall, this is a great archetype and probably the first caster archetype which isn't actively terrible. This is the first time they did something with casters and it didn't suck. They are casters who specialize in killing dangerous enemies. Almost like they're a DPS or something. It is insane. It is insane. For when Eku Ultra comes back, would you want to spend 1,500 for me to get a pot 6? No. I would not recommend sparking every copy of the character. Anyone who's about to say something, shut the fuck up. Mods ban anyone who brings it up. Oh, are you saying would I like to? Oh yeah, you're very welcome to sign up. I always do viewer pools. I'd love to have you. I wonder how you'd rate Pusher and Puller these days. Don't worry, I will get to them. I'm going through every archetype. Also, welcome in R3R. Lovely to have you. Also, by the way, apologies. Just to clarify, that was not at all just at you. Kautsar. I do love the archetype. I just think the archetype's bad. But yeah, so as a whole, Mecha Chord casters do good damage, and they specialize in dealing more damage over time. This is a tower defense game. This is basically a perfect archetype. Similar to Caper, loop shooters, this is a perfect archetype. It's just not one you have as much control over. And they still manage to kind of fuck it up. To the point where the only two who are usable have global range. Fortress Defenders isn't bad. I might need to get my wallet. I do believe Fortress Defenders are bad. They're DPS-oriented defenders, and their DPS sucks. You gonna finish the tier list today? Yes, sir. I am. I am going to. Speaking of, next up, we have Phalanx Casters. Now, I hear a lot of people say Phalanx Casters are just Liberator Guards, but ranged versions. No, they're not, actually. So, here is the confusion people have, and here is the reason I used Lyn. Lyn, specifically, is the ranged equivalent of Mlinar. You want to know what the fuck Carnelian does while she's not doing anything? Nothing. You want to know what Beeswax does while her skill isn't active? Nothing. You want to know what Mint does while her skill isn't active? Nothing. Their archetype is that when they normally don't attack, and they gain tankiness when not attacking. And they only attack when their skill is active. The problem with this is, what situations do you want a ranged tank? There are some. There are. But it is nowhere near as valuable as having a cheap DPS tank, like Mlinar. Most stages, they don't really do much. Mint gives defense. Name me one person ever who has used a defense buff outside of memes. I'm aware of that. CC, I have never seen any of them other than Lyn being used in CC, and that was only in the Seaborn one. Patriot Phase 2 on H-Map, no, he one-shots them. Stages with no high ground, low ground mechanic. So, okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Hans. So, what you're saying is, if they were deployable on melee tiles, Phalanx Casters would be good. I agree with you. The problem is, they usually don't attack, and in a lot of situations, also can't tank. They are DPSs who are also tanks. And they can't tank and don't attack. Also, their defenses kind of suck. I'm not gonna lie. They're still really squishy. Like, every time I try them against ranged enemies, they just fucking die. They have like 500 defense and 30 res. It's pathetic. It's so much lower than you expect it to be. Every single time. It's so much lower. It just feels like they do absolutely fucking nothing every single time I try to use them. I don't know what to tell you. That being said, they do at least have decent stat spreads. Wishadel summons looking at them in the corner? Yes. Wishadel summons are better than Phalanx Casters. You're bad at using them. No, they're just bad. Lyn specifically is very usable. But that's because she does damage when attacked, giving her a rudimentary discount version of Taunt. She has a reflect skill because of her passive. You're just bad. I use them quite a bit. They're usually not worth it. So here's a good test for you if you think I'm so bad than horror. Can Phalanx Casters survive Molotov drones? No. Can they survive Arts drones? No. Can they survive Enraged Possessed Throwers? No. Can they survive Faust? No. Can they survive Patriot Spears? Unless completely maxed out? No. They were specifically good at Seaborn because Lyn reduces damage by a flat amount. Meaning she was immortal. All of them function? Yes! They do function! But their archetype is terrible. Andriana and Gladia being a better range tank than the archetype designed for range tanking. Exactly! Gladia is a better ranged tank than any Phalanx caster! Praminix Ulta's here to save the archetype? Yes! Praminix Ulta is a good example of why the archetype is bad. Praminix Ulta does things when she's not in use. She does a lot without her skills, actually. They added a lot of juice to make up for the fact that she usually doesn't attack. We don't talk about Beeswax's sister. She's so yeah, exactly. So I do think this is... I would say it is slightly better than Splashcasters. I would say they are minutely better than Splashcasters. But Arknights is really not good at making caster archetype. They really struggle to figure out how to balance this shit. L-Take, that's fine if you disagree with me. I've explained my opinion and you're very welcome to your own. In my opinion, from multiple years of trying to use them, the only one who's usable is Lyn, and that is because she has a damage ignore if the damage is below a certain threshold. Every other Phalanx caster spawns in and dies before you can get their skill off if you place them offensively, and if you place them defensively, you never get to use their skill because they're short range. Need a Vanguard Gladiator, need a Sniper Gladiator, need an Arts Caster Gladiator. So true, bestie. Praminix Ulta does kind of feel that they're ranged liberators, though. Yes! But that is because Praminix Ulta has an overloaded kit. That's like saying Ulpianus represents the fact that Crusher Guards are tanky. No, Ulpianus is tanky. Crusher Guards are squishy. Ulpianus and Hodora ignore that downside. But it is a defined downside of the archetype. It is a really good example is Hoshiguma Ulta. Hoshiguma Ulta ignores every downside of an Arts Defender by having map-wide invincibility and absurd DPS due to her multipliers. That is unrelated to her archetype. The archetype sucks. The archetype is trading tankiness for damage as a defender, but your damage sucks. And now you're also not tanky. Name 10 things Beeswax can live. Okay, name 10 things Beeswax can survive that a normal defender can't. Patriot Spear. Okay, and in most situations, who's better? Hoshiguma or Beeswax? They fill similar roles. I said that only Carnelian has no off-skill aspect. Yeah, it's just most of their off-skill aspects suck. Beeswax is okay because the self-heal. Mint does nothing because defense buffs are generally irrelevant and it is not worth bringing someone worth 24, or what was it, 20 DP? Where she just gives like a 10% buff. It's very, very minor. Beeswax is fun though. Yes, it's just the archetype inherently kind of sucks. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy using them. I love Arts Defenders. I love Brawlers, except for the good ones. Indigo the fucking 4-star also carries the archetype. Yes! Now! You might think we're back, but wait! There's more! I don't know what series of interns they held at gunpoint and told to create their archetypes for casters. Mystic casters are the baseline through which Liberator guards were made. But they are really bad. Let's have an entire archetype where they charge up one very powerful attack, and that is their only chance of doing anything, because outside of that, they suck. And then let's also make it so that they can target the first enemy in range, which will be the fastest enemy, which will never be a boss. Never in a million years. Abenholtz ignores this restriction entirely. And he still sucks! And they gave him like 17 modules! Much like Deadeyes, they just do not do enough damage to justify the inconvenience of using them. They are not good at their job, and they suck at everything else. I believe them to be the Arts version of Deadeyes. They are exactly one-to-one the Arts version of Deadeyes in my mind, but physical is somehow better, despite casters being functionally a form of true damage. Even Abenholtz is okay at best. Exactly. He's fun, but he's okay at best. South, what's up, Earth? Don't know. Actually, thinking on it more. Would I recommend an Instructor Guard above a Mystic Caster? Yes, I'm thinking of specifically Indigo. You know what? I'm gonna put him right here with... Actually, dead ass. I think they're worse than Blast Casters. At least blast casters do AoE. They at least do their core job right. Most mystic casters cannot boss kill, and they are dedicated boss killers. And by cannot, I mean on most boss stages, it is mathematically impossible for them to boss kill unless you have other units spawn killing everything else for them. Welcome in, Lizzie! Lovely to have you. Hello, South. Welcome in, Johnny. I wish Mystic Casters were better. I agree with you. Who bribed for the cat? Nothing. I just felt weird putting her in great, but she's definitely better than okay. How are you? I'm doing well. How are you? Where's that BGM from? It is on screen right now. So yeah, in my opinion, the charge mechanic does not work. And oh, by the way, I forgot to specify. Here is what their trait is. Here is what defines them. Attacks deal arts damage. When unable to target an enemy, attacks are stored up and fired at once, storing up to 3. So they can triple their damage once, and in exchange, their damage sucks, they have low attack speed, and they die to a stiff breeze. Probably why Evanholtz barely works, only to get jobbed by Logos. Exactly. Even Evanholtz, who they've actively tried to make as good as they can in the Archetype, still kind of sucks. It is what it is. Why are Hoshiolta and Haruka in Awful? Haruka hasn't been rated yet. Hoshigolta is in Awful because it is Archetype rather than character. I'm high, ignore me. You're fine, Vexilius, not to worry. Now, did they finally make a caster worth using? With Primal Casters. Can I get a round of applause for everyone's favorite archetype Primal Casters? Who here is itching to use your Primal Caster? How many of you? How many of you? Be honest, raise your hands. Who here cannot think of a world without the best archetype Primal Casters? So, here is what they do. Attacks deal arts damage and can afflict elemental damage. So, in theory, this is just a core caster who deals a second kind of true damage. And they managed to fuck it up! They have ranged true damage, and they made it suck! They don't apply fucking any! Nymph is good despite that. You never proc her fear. She just uses a separate debuff. At least when they fix the mechanic around elemental buildup. Exactly! Elemental buildup sucks! They cannot apply it! Nymph and Mantra are both amazing and the others don't exist. Exactly, but that's just because they're absurd multipliers. They do not function as elemental proccers. The only people who can reliably proc elementals are supporters and you. Like, the archetype as a whole, try using bobbing and get him to proc burn on somebody. It's not happening, Chief.
Please, chat, give.
I tried to make Primal Casters work, level mastery modules, and other waste of resources. Absolutely. Welcome in, Famous. So yeah, Nymph and Mantra specifically are good, but that's just because they have so much attack that they instantly proc their elemental stuff. So it is literally just they are good, and in addition they are good, rather than their archetype. Their archetype is limiting. It means unless they can basically one-shot enemies, they can never proc their debuff. Meaning they're just a discount version of a caster with a confusing kit. Bobbing is a ritualist? Okay, well, ritualist... Bobbing is an exception. He really sucks. So, no. However, they're up against a lot of dog shit. I would merely put them as bad. For caster standards, they're really solid. They're just core casters with a slightly more confusing kit that usually is completely irrelevant because the majority of them cannot proc their debuffs. If you look at them in a vacuum, then yeah, but it's a team game, so it's fine. Yeah, but like, this is similar to Gracebearer, except Gracebearer just has raw stats because the stat spread is absurd. They don't have a defined strength. They just have half of their kit not function. Gracebearer's defined strength is not her elemental damage, it's the fact that she just has Lord Guard level broken stat spread. That's why Gracebearer is so high. Otherwise, Gracebearer would also be really, really low. Standing on top of a tower of garbage? Yeah. As a whole, in my opinion, the archetype itself is just inherently flawed in the sense of none of them are reliable procs. What they should have done is, instead of the build-up mechanic, just have it so that they have a skill which instantly procs the elemental burst. Like, just do that. There, now they have a unique niche case. But in most situations, the enemy dies before you can proc it. We already did Mystic? Yes, just then. Using Ritualists directly better? Yeah, so supporters are better at applying a debuff than a caster. So why did they make a debuff-oriented caster archetype that sucks at it? If the release scheduling on Ritualist, Primal Casters, and other stuff was better, it would work nicer. It would. But as it stands now, they are non-functional as an archetype, and the only time characters are good, it is despite the archetype, not at all because of it. They wanted to force the Ritualist and Primal Caster synergy. They did, and they failed. Now, speaking of kind of failed archetypes, and this time it's kind of. It is really depressing that Shaper Casters are very definitively the second best archetype of caster. Because I wouldn't put him in amazing. The stats without the elemental are pretty close to core casters, so they're baseline more usable than most casters at least. Exactly. It's just a problem of complexity. They've added a lot of complexity to their kit, and most of the time it doesn't matter. So it just confuses people for no reason or no benefit. That is why I view it as a downside rather than an upside. They got the summon tag, so they're on the summon team. Absolutely. So, Shaper Casters. Now, Techno. Techno's weird. I don't really know how Techno works, but Shaper Casters are a very good example of role compression. They are DPSs who can generally also lane hold and specialize in soloing large waves of enemies, but usually can't deal with specifically difficult enemies where you would need a dedicated guard. They are just self-sustaining units and overall pretty solid. It is hard to properly judge them because we only have two and Techno is Techno. But in my opinion, they are legitimately a better version of the Summoner class. This archetype got saved by feats. Yeah, it got saved by Ablana's feats. So true, bestie. Techno's designed to have as many summons as possible, quantity over quantity. Yeah, but that just doesn't work in Arknights. They've tried that many times, and it always sucks. Every time they try it, it sucks, and then they keep trying it again. So no, legitimately, I would put them in great. I think they're a fantastic archetype. For anyone who does not know what they do, when they defeat an enemy, they create a summon. These summons can block enemies, have their own automatic skills, and can be buffed by their skills. So this is what a summoner supporter should have been. Obviously not this directly, but this kind of archetype, where they're a self-sustaining unit who starts weak and ends up spiraling out of control if the right conditions are met. If they can't get their summons down or their summons get taken down, they're mediocre, barely functional, but they still do respectable damage. They're not actively terrible. So much like Caper, I would consider this an inherently good archetype. It's just, it doesn't have the same level of tactical flexibility because it's very hard to check the summon stats. You don't control where they spawn. It's sometimes a little goofy. It is a high ground defender. It is cool. Welcome in, Tresh. Dusk should be in a Shaper. Yes. Dusk is very clearly the inspiration for Shapers. At least they don't use deployment slots like Summoners. Exactly. That is the big problem of Summoners, because Summoners' summons compete with every other operator in the game for that deployment slot. Why would you like Magellan's summon, or would you rather have Surtur? Sometimes the Shapers get a little quirky. They do. Now, I'm actually not 100% sure where I want to put Shapers. I actually do think they're better than Reaper Guards, but I don't think they're as strong as Liberators. I do think they're overtuned, at least compared to Ablana. You have a lot of control, but they don't have quite as defined of a weakness as they probably need to balance them out. But overall, I think the archetype is very, very fun, has a lot of player agency, and has defined use cases. It is good at one thing specifically, and that thing is very, very obvious. It is an arts damage dealer who comes with their own blocker. It is not as good as a normal blocker. It will never be as good as a normal blocker, but the blocker is free and their kit is balanced around making it better. Sometimes the Shakers... Oh, already read that one. Decent against waves? Exactly. They specialize against waves. And in my opinion, I do actually think they're better than Reapers. I sometimes forget that, like, Reapers get stat checked because they're Fizz. Liberators so far do not get stat checked, and I fear the day when Mlynar can get stat checked. And that is not going to be a good day. As a reminder for anyone who wasn't around. So, the game mode called Pinch Out is CC. So you know how we recently had CCB? An event called CCB? Battle Plan? Contingency Contract Battle Plan? Basically, Pinch Out was that. People put it to the maximum difficulty and scaled up the enemy's defense as high as it goes. And Mlinar, who does Fizz, barely noticed. If there are any enemies in the game who can power scale Mlinar to irrelevance anytime soon, the game is dying. And we will be expecting a Frost Nova banner any day now. If Mlinar stat checks, that means even Ishidel is just A+. No. Ishidel still has versatility. Mlinar does partial true damage? Yeah, but like, not on his swings he doesn't. He just does so much raw fizz. Much like Schwartz, if there is ever an enemy too tanky for Schwartz, you have a problem. It is 6 years later and Schwartz still does not ever do chip damage. Legitimate challenge. Can any person find me a situation where Schwartz's S3 does true damage, does chip damage, rather. That's what I was trying to say. Hello there, welcome in Acetone. Tallulah is playable character when? Soon. But no, like, Schwartz is the original version of Mlinar, where it is just raw stats, and even today, Schwartz still holds up due to her absurd multipliers. Mlinar is that, and that is the entire archetype. Even Windscoot is absurd. So yeah, they are not as good as that. But I would put them above Reaper Guards who do regularly get stat checked and are only good against waves. While they specialize against waves, Shaper Casters also have block and do arts damage and can use block without risk of dying. So that does give them a unique niche against bosses. They're a weird semi-stall with a bit of arts damage. 7,000 defense. Yeah, Mlinar. Actually, no. I'm pretty sure Schwartz still actually exceeds chip damage. Schwartz S3 has defense down and crit, which is great at boss killing. Exactly. Wouldn't you need defense above 6k to put Mlinar or Schwartz into chip damage? Yeah. So maybe an IS endings 4 at max difficulty. But that's assuming they don't have any buffs from IS. Now, next up, we're on to ones who are a little bit boring. Was Ave Mujika banner for you today? No, it starts tomorrow, very early in the morning. So tomorrow afternoon, I will be streaming it. So about 23 hours, I'll be doing calls. Now, everybody, get excited! At long last, it's Medics! Everybody, raise the roof! Come on, I want to see some excitement. I'm not seeing enough movement. Who here is really keen for Medics? Aren't they the most exciting class? Aren't all of their archetypes so distinct? We have, the ones who heal. The ones who are just casters. What else do we got? They heal. Did I mention they heal? And the crowd goes mild. We have Medics. First off, Medics. Yes, that is their actual name. They are the Medic branch of Medics. Whoever did that should be fired. Whenever I mention that the devs refused to use the community nicknames, the community nickname was a single target Medic. So to avoid doing that, they said Medic. I would like to add something to the Geneva Convention, please. Anyway. Single target Medics. Their trait, restore the HP of allies. Multi-target Medics. Their trait, restore the HP of 3 allies. Do we need a breakdown on these? Single target Medics are just John Medic. And AoE Medics are just John Medic, but better. Is anybody confused? We got the Medic one can heal damage and one does true damage. Exactly. Hold on, I need to write this down. Yeah. So I know this is very, very complex. So single target Medics are Medics who heal a single target. Oh, thanks for the follow, Vila. Glad you're having fun. So yeah, single target Medics, solid stat spreads. They are basically everything you... Actually, I'm gonna do it one better. I'm gonna modify it. Single target medics are great. AoE medics are amazing. They do everything you would expect of them. And they do it really well. Basically, every single medic of these two archetypes, almost, not literally, but almost every single one is just generally very good. It's good. Being able to heal your units is good. They've got a good stat spread. They're good at what they do. They heal teammates, yes. They're very, very good at what they do. Actually, no. I probably wouldn't go that far. Let's put single target medics at the bottom of great. No, let's put single target medics in cat. And then we'll put AoE medics in great. That feels better to me. Medics are okay. Yeah, the problem is that so many other archetypes don't need medics. Back at launch, I do think they would go in excellent, but these days, DPSs have kind of removed the need for medics because everything dies. And there's a lot of role compression that lets units heal or be independent like Ablana. Can you make an exception tier for Kalzi? No! So, this one very much confuses me, but Kalzi's archetype is a normal medic. Everything else about her kit is not a trait. It is just random bullshit they gave her for no reason. Can you tell that Kalzi was designed before archetype existed? Long range medic? No! No. She just randomly has that. No. Look into Kalzi's kit. She is a medic. She just randomly has an extra row of tiles and a summon. It is never explained. They would have had to make a new medic with one unit. Yeah, so they did that with Ifrit. They made blast casters. Also, did you know that healing defenders were originally just defenders? They didn't specify when it first came out. They marked them as the same. Folinic is also Cal tier 2. No. Folinic doesn't have the range extension. That is uniquely Cal. I have not... It's so fucking... Why is she not a different archetype? She has 5 range, prioritizes specific units. Like, so much of Cal's shit is unique. This is not a normal medic. Good morning. Welcome in Endermanos. How's your day going? And Vanguard aren't real back then, it's just guards that make DP. Yes, that is why Siege has skills that don't make DP, and Yato is a guard rather than a specialist. It's like how some regular defenders have extra range at 6 stars. Exactly. Cal came into the game with Scardiolta, yeah? Yes! No, that was well before Archetypes. From memory, Archetypes came out with Blemishine, or was it after? Archetypes didn't exist for a long time. Like, multiple years of the game, Archetypes were not an official thing. They were all player named. That was, I mean, they did use Lord Guards then. Actually, shit, is the official name of Lord Guard Lord Guard? No, I think we used to call them Ranged Guards or something lame. Cal's unique, but in the Isekai protagonist bullshit way. Exactly. Kalzi is an Isekai protagonist with her cheat skill. She has a stand. Anyway, moving on. We have Therapists. Has a large healing range, but deals less healing to faraway enemies. This gun used to be a normal defender. She still, yeah, she did used to be. This Bernie's Brain Rot is the only song I fully watch these days based. So yeah, therapists, I mean, it's fine. It's basically the same. It's really well balanced. I wouldn't quite put it cat tier. I'd put it in okay. They're better at some things and worse at others. They're just a side grade to normal medics. They're usually slightly worse than normal medics. I wish the second effect for Therapist was a bit better. Exactly. Why can't they give permanent buffs to enemies who've been affected by it instead? They're a bit better than single target medics. I would say no, actually. They have much more restrictive range because the outermost wave of tiles, they do 80% healing, which is actually significant because their stat spread kind of sucks. The reason, like... Okay, here's the confusion a lot of people have. A lot of people have only used Whisperrain, Pure Stream, and Lumen. Try using Noel and Salon, and you will very quickly realize how bad therapists are. The archetype as a whole is just eh. it is a downgrade from normal medics. It's just a case of most of them have personal bullshit that makes up for it. Therapist is a medic? Exactly. Now, moving on, we have Wandering Medic.
I'll show you who I really am.
They're medics! They heal shit! It's pretty good! I can't spend too much time on medics because there's nothing to talk about. So, in theory, this is a really good archetype. You want to know the problem? Every single Wandering Medic outside of Aya cannot out-heal any source of elemental injury. And Aya can out-heal any source of elemental injury. Which means they stopped introducing sources of elemental injury. Because Mulberry and Honeyberry cannot out-heal it, and Aya does, regardless of the source. So, they are just a better version of therapists. In my opinion, they are an upgrade to single-target medics, because they just have better range, and in addition, they restore 50% of their attack, they recover elemental injury. They are just a slightly better version of single-target medics, because they have better range and equivalent stats. And they have a defined use case where they're drastically better, even though most of them can't fucking heal elemental damage. Range not AoE. Yeah, the range is just better. They often heal more than one. That is not inherent to the archetype. That is just their skills. Welcome in, Kevin. Wandering medics have shit healing. Not really. Like, it's when you compare it, like, keep in mind, when we're comparing medics, we're not comparing it to Silence specifically. We're also comparing them to Tuye and Gaviel. It's a lot of people forget that inherently medics aren't amazing. It's just there are some really cracked medics in there. There are some absolute S-tier medics in there. They're very on par with single target medics, Wandering medics, in my opinion, in terms of like actual average healing numbers. 15% or lower, yes, but the range increase is quite drastic, and they're not that much more expensive. Like, they're not massively inconvenient. They just have outright better range, and the way their range is spread is better than therapists as well, where they can just reach absurdly far. So it's a midway point between AoE and single target. Incantation medic on mid? No, we'll get to them soon. Caster medic is kind of good, yeah. You're blinded by Aya's talent? No, I do use the others. Their elemental healing fucking sucks. But the rest of their healing, in my opinion, is actually quite decent. That's just my personal opinion. If you disagree, that's fine. But from personal use, I found their elemental healing to be abysmal, and their normal healing to be quite fine. Incantation medics are kind of mac. Yep, so moving on. Incantation medics. Now, here is the trait of an incantation medic. Attack, steal arts damage, and heal the HP of an ally within attack range for 50% of the damage dealt. You might be thinking, South, Reed Alter is really good. Yeah, she is. Is the archetype good? No! They're healers who don't heal. And it's not that they heal on attack. They heal when they do damage. If the enemy has an arts shield, they are physically incapable of healing. Reed is good because she does 9 quintillion damage, causing everyone in range to instantly heal to full. They are just casters that suck. And casters are really bad. Reed, can you destroy your computer? Yes, she reduces all HP to 0. They heal in 95% of situations. Yes, but their healing is very, very bad. Their healing only happens if they are actively doing damage, and their healing numbers are generally low, especially since any enemy having res results in a flat percentage reduction of their healing. And that is quite common. So they are healers who get reduced by res. Feels like those damage medics should be classified as supporters, but supporters who heal should be medics. I know, right? It's really weird. Hibiscus, Alter, and Reed are good. Yes, like, so is Amia's medic version. Their healing is okay, but the problem is, They're trading healing for damage, and outside of Reed, their damage sucks. So, to be fair, I wouldn't quite put them in awful. I think they're equivalent to Fortress Defenders. They try to do two things, and they do both of them kind of badly. Amia's kind of good. Amia is very good, but she also does true damage. Hibiscus isn't very good. She just has a very strong debuffer, but she's a medic. So why is your medic a debuffer who does arts damage? They're a great caster. Mid is a medic? Yeah. Then most of the time you use incantation medics, you're looking for arts damage, but why not just use a caster? Like, if their healing matters, you can't afford the downgrade that they bring compared to an actual healer. If their healing doesn't matter, why aren't you using a caster? Upcoming incantation medic is really good. Yes! It's a very weird one because generally, much like Fortress Defenders, every single one basically is good. But the archetype itself sucks. They just have really good stats. The archetype itself is trading healing for damage. But either you want to kill the enemy so quick they can't do damage, or you want to heal through the damage. You kind of don't want a half and half. It's not a good example of role compression. It's just, so far, most of them have been individually quite good. Hibiscus Altar is an example of the archetype who fits the archetype the best. Hibiscus Altar and Vendella, both of them really suck. I love both of them, but they're both really, really terrible. Chain Medics up, yes? Yes. Now, next up, Chain Medics. Restores HP of allies, bouncing between 3 allies. Healing is reduced by 25% per bounce. Welcome in, Fracta. I'm going well. How are you? Also, welcome in, Highfire. Now, I want to state something. Monster is a chain medic. She is not a situation like Ulpianus, where they completely ignore the archetype's downside. She has a method to play into the archetype, which is the bounce. She just has control over it. Monster is incredible game design and one of my favorite units. Not just in terms of character, because obviously I'm biased towards her there, in terms of actual mechanical design. I think it's very interesting. However, the archetype fucking sucks. It is so inconvenient to have your healer follow the same targeting as the enemies. It means almost every single time, the bounce is awful. You can never control it, and it is always blatantly worse than a normal AoE medic, with the sole exception of Monster, who, to be fair, unlike Rey, doesn't ignore her archetype debuff, and instead plays into it and is incredible. But as an archetype, I think it is terrible. Can you guys even name the other chain medics? That is how irrelevant the archetype is. It's a worse AoE medic? Yes. It is a drastically worse AoE medic that is actively hard to control. Is that how the bounce works? Yes, it goes on to most recently deployed. Paprika and Papyrus. Yes, sir! Of course you knew them both. Little cat gaming. Monster took advantage of the archetype design to max. Yeah, exactly. Monster is really cool. But that doesn't stop her archetype from sucking. She just specifically plays into it perfectly. And even then, Monster's stats are also kind of stupidly high. Like, unfairly. I like Papyrus and Paprika, but they're so ass. Exactly. And it's not that their kits as units suck, it's that their archetype sucks. Papyrus and Paprika are very much chain medics. They don't have any flaw in their personal kits. Their personal kits are fine. Their archetype is terrible, and Monster specifically found a clever way around that still plays into the archetype. Monster got the cheat code from Kelsey? Yes, she did. I like both. I like all of that archetype, but much like Hoshiguma, I gotta be real, they are not good. Papyrus would be alright if she was a single target medic. Exactly. If Papyrus or Paprika were different archetypes, they would be fantastic. Or at least very solid. They are being massively held back by their archetype. She'd be a worse Shining. Yeah, but she's a 5-star. That's completely fair. Hello, I'm free. Welcome in, Cat with a Gun. I'm glad you're doing okay. Monsters S3 messes with deployment order and bounces too. Yes. But let's be real. Also, welcome in, Flare. Okay, here is why I don't count that. When you're using Monster as a healer, you use her S1, S2. Monster S3, in my opinion, is a different character to Monster S1, S2. I don't count them as the same character, because that is just an offensive skill. Reduce to atoms? Yes, sir, absolutely. Next up, we're finally out of the hell that is medics, because how the fuck do you rank them? So, Desselbinders. Is Shining that bad? Yes. She was good at launch, but she adds flat defense. Unlike flat res, this is basically always going to become irrelevant. These days, Mudrock struggles with normal enemies. Stats creep is inevitable. So nowadays, Shining's defense buff is terrible. So, Desselbinder supporters. In addition to having a pretty cool name, here is what their talent does. They do arts damage, and they slow for a short time. In theory, that is really good. The problem is, their damage is okay, and their slow is okay. So I'm not saying they're bad, I'm saying they're missed potential. Welcome in, Vagabond Ferret. I guess I missed the talk on paramedics. Can I get the teal? Sorry, paramedics. Which archetype, which character are you talking about? That's not the official name, so just to confirm, are you talking about Whisperain's archetype, Aya's archetype? I once did a Desselbinder only run. I almost failed the beginner stage. They're not that bad. Their damage is respectable. They are discount casters who trade off some damage for a debuff. That is exactly what you're looking for. Yes? Sorry, I said multiple options. Which of it? Are you talking about Whisperain? Or are you talking about Aya? Apologies, Vaga. So, in my opinion, they could have been great, but their slow duration is too low. Their slow needed to be stronger. Debuffs in Arknights in their current form almost always suck. So, in my opinion, they are just a discount version of Core Casters. Relatively solid damage, but kind of an inherent flaw where they can be good, but they usually won't be. Therapists... Oh, gotcha. The problem is that in most situations, therapists are just worse than single targets. That's all. I'm not even saying they're good. I'm just saying usually single targets will be better because the weird range restrictions and damage debuffs. Like, a lot of people think of Whisperain and Lumen as the benchmark. No, the benchmark is Salon. Actually, go and try and use Salon. They've had to basically remove the archetype downside with the modules to make them usable, just because they were a downgrade from single target medics. So I'm not even saying they're bad. They're fine. They're just slightly worse than single targets usually. Logos can slow, doesn't he? Yes, but he is a special child. That is not at all to do with his archetype. So actually, the more that I think about it, I actually think they go a bit lower on the list. I think they are just below Marksman. Because at the end of the day, they function at their job, but they do not excel at their job. Core casters excel at their job. Centurions excel at their job. Marksmen excel at their job. Pioneers are fine at their job, and that is where I would put Desselbinders. They are decent arts DPSs with decent slow, but they really needed a better slow. Hi, South. Welcome in, Mystic. Lovely to have you. Summoners are awful. Yes, they are. We'll get to summoners, don't you worry. So, but no, Desselbinders, they're a weird one, because Angelina... This is so fucking hard to rank, because the only good ones are Orchid and Podenko. I gotta be honest, no, they suck. They're bad. They don't debuff. Their debuff is shit. Even Angelina's slow sucks. Debuffs in Arknights are just really, really bad. Like, I love this archetype so much. Welcome in, Choo Choo. Are there pulls later? No, isn't the mate like 4 hours? Desselbinders are okay for the start of the game. Yeah, but in high-end content, Suzerain specifically is good, and that's it. Saria is a better Desselbinder than every other Desselbinder. Saria is the second best Desselbinder, and she's a healing defender. How dare you deny Angelina and Suzerain? I like Angelina, but she focuses more on the DPS than the debuffs, so debuffs suck. They just don't keep up. It's just a case of at the start of the game, the debuffs were relevant, and these days they aren't. And because their debuff is the main part of their kit, and their debuff sucks, just like realistically, they needed something else. They needed stronger uptime on their slow. Just make their slow last longer so it's effectively permanent if they're only targeting one character, and then it would at least hold up. Their entire kit is based around slowing, and they're not even close to the best at it. Like, even Suzerain is not the best slower in the game. Ascalon is better, and Summoners are better. Anyway, moving on to Summoners. Summoners deal arts damage. And, hear me out. Now, apologies, everybody. Calm yourselves, deep breaths. This one's going to be very complex. Summoners can summon units. I don't... Calm down, calm down. What do you mean? They're a unit who brings another unit. No, trust, calm. It's fine, it makes sense. Deep breaths, deep breaths. I know, your mind is blown right now. You're still trying to figure out how, duelist guards work. And I'm out here letting you know I put a unit inside your unit and not in the Exousier way. But the problem is, it really sucks. How is that even real? No, don't worry about it. So basically, like, you know how Calzi has a stand? So summoner supporters are like, instead of a stand, it's just another guy. So they pose dramatically and a different person shows up. But here is the problem. Summoners have to compete with every single other character in the game. Can they do things? Yes. But in every situation a summoner is good, a different unit is better. Think of how absurdly, disgustingly strong they had to make Radiant in IS-6. And consider the fact that she is still, a lot of times, your second choice for a supporter voucher. Because Tragonia. Though, to be fair, that is a bit of an unfair discussion. But no, they needed to make Radiant summons free, not take deployment slots, get massive buffs, and give her a whole bunch of buffs to the core mechanics of IS-6 for her to be worth using. Every single summon from a summoner costs DP and needs to compete with normal arse units. So instead of being a one-man team who starts spiraling out of control, they disable your ability to use the rest of your team. They should have made summons slightly weaker and not cost deployment slots. Or even make them cost much more DP and no deployment slots. So a summoner is an ultra endgame last unit you bring, where you have DP to waste and you want to spiral out of control. Where they are very slow to get going and absurd once they are. Sort of like Ling S3. Unfortunately, they did not do that. And by default, they do cost summon slots. Making them, in my opinion, as bad, if not worse, than Duelist Defenders. Actually, no. I would still mark Duelist Defenders as worse. Sorry, that was mean of me. That one was mean of me. Duelist Defenders do not function. Summoners do function. They do function as a one-man team, even if it is always worse than a normal team. Radiant is just serviceable outside of IS. She doesn't have a module beside IS one. Exactly. Second worst class in the game? I would say yes. Because while they can do more than splash casters, to do more, they have to sacrifice every other team slot. So if you compare the base summoner themselves to Mystima, or even Skyfire, Maya and Magellan, without their summons, are definitely worse than Skyfire. And Skyfire is really bad. DP restriction, yes, and also deployment restriction. Basically, summoner supporters get hit by almost every restriction in the game. And it's not that you can't make use of them, it's that their archetype has an inherent weakness of, instead of being some really complex unit who spirals out of control, you need pre-planning and game knowledge, making them functionally useless for the overwhelming majority of players. Summoner's best trust farm? Yes, I agree. For summon tag only runs, who else can I use? Just check in game. But no, realistically, it is just an inherent problem that every single summon competes with a normal operator. Any operator in the game, in almost every situation. Beanstalk is the exception. Yes, Beanstalk summons don't take deployment slots. That is what they should have had. They should not have had Summoner's summons take deployment slots. They should have had them be very expensive units who spiral out of control with more and more investment in a stage until eventually they can solo it if you give them enough. Instead, one Maya Mibu is competing with Surta. That's not a favorable comparison. That's not working. They're also competing with Texas Alta and Tragodia and Lapland and Mlinar. Use Tacticians. Yeah, Tacticians are an example of it done well. There is a reason where every single other summon, except for Kalzi, does not use deployment slots. Summoner done right, Mumu? Unironically, yes. What character you do say for now? Is it Ave Mujika or Silver Alta or Sway Sibling? Any of them. The reason people are going for Ave Mujika is they're limited, but Silver Ash Alta and the Sway Sibling are both better. Beanstalk is a specialist who happens to generate DP. I know, right? To be honest, I'm like 2 weeks new to this shit. Oh, don't worry. If you're new to Arknights. The main one to note is Lord Guards and Agents. These first two, they're really amazing. They're consistently amazing. Except for the 4-star Lord Guard Frostleaf. Do not use her. Also, lovely to have you, Vagabond. If you're enjoying Arknights. Hi, South. Welcome in Sylphonic. Ave Mujika is collab limited, won't rerun without a special rerun. Exactly. That is why people are going feral for Ave Mujika. The other's better. Oh, shit! Welcome in, Rapid! How you going, man? Welcome in, Raiders. What were you up to, man? I saw you were live, but I was busy doing dishes, so I was lurking and listening to your voice, but not seeing what you were doing. Frostleaf casting strays. No, okay. Raiders, back me up. New players should never level Frostleaf, right? Hello? How you going, man? Lovely to have you. Yeah, so, every single man, woman, and child can verify newer players should not level Frostleaf under any circumstances. If they have nobody but Melantha, they shouldn't level Frostleaf. They should to E1? No. Even then, she still sucks. Do it for the meme? Do not. Do not recommend Frostleaf to newer players. But no, welcome in Vistosha. And how you going, Rapid? Lovely to have you, man. But yeah, Frostleaf just has the best archetype in the game and still manages to suck. It's actually impressive. Level her because she's cute. Then just use Frostleaf that's in, Genshin. Enfield instead. Frostleaf got hampered by someone who thought it was funny to nuke her attack speed. I know, right? It's so fucking funny. And also, she competes with Cutter, who is just specifically better as a 4-star. She's a good XP base skill. I do agree, but if you're 2 weeks into the game, you should not be worrying about that. But, like, in most situations for a newbie, Midnight is better. Who's Frostleaf in Enfield? Estelle, I think her name is. The Frost Lady. Very, very clearly inspired by Frostleaf. Even though, different vibes. In the same way, what's her name? The lady everyone's really horny for. The snake. Fluorite. Fluorite is very clearly inspired by Gaviel. She's not a reconvener, but she's very clearly inspired by Gaviel. Same as Estelle and Frostleaf. He's joking, Frostleaf is a hard carry. No, stop trolling newbies. But no, hope you had a good day, man. Thanks so much for the raid. Lovely to have you. And please make sure you rest up and eat if you need to. Moving on, next up, we have Hexes. So, in theory, Hexes are a good archetype. They deal arts damage. That's it. That's their trait. But they are defined by debuffs. That's not part of their trait, but that is a core part of their kit. They are debuffers. They are the debuffers. But, man, holy shit. Debuffs in Arknight suck! When was the last time anyone here saw Lucilla being used? Or Praminix? Shamare's okay. Gnosis is fine. It is just almost never worth bringing a dedicated debuffer because you don't need to debuff a dead enemy. And usually it is better to dedicate that slot to a DPS unit. So that is just, it is not even a case of the archetype itself is bad. The game is not balanced around debuffers. They don't really interact properly with Arknights. Raises hand using Praminix. Yeah, well, you're using that because you like her, not because she's good. Like, Shamare has, in my opinion, the best, most consistent debuff in the game, and even then, she rarely sees use. They are just It is just not something that the game encourages. It is almost never worth using a debuffer because you have so many squad slots. Stat creep is making them more usable. Yes. Shamari is as good as, like, they are they are stat creep proof, but they were never really good. They're just, I would consider them the top of bad, because as a core, their archetype is perfectly fine. It's just they don't play into the game well. So there is nothing wrong with them at the core, except for the fact that they are debuffers, and Arknights does not like debuffers. I used Lucilla as new player at E1 because I pulled her early. I'm sorry for your loss. Gnosis is a Hexer. No, Gnosis is a, Yeah, Gnosis is a Hexer, yes. He is a debuffer. He applies Frost. It's just like, they really did try with Gnosis, but it's just never really worth using a debuffer. That's why no one even knows the archetype. Next up, we have Bards. The other end of the spectrum and drastically better. A buffer. Does not attack, but continuously heals all allies in their small range. They also apply an inspiration buff, which can raise other stats. Now, a lot of people are going to look at this and go, Sculptor is really good. Therefore, the archetype is good. No. The archetype's terrible. The archetype is atrocious. They are simply worse AoE healers. They don't heal shit. I won't stand for this Teresa Eraser. Yeah, Teresa gets away with this by just changing their HP percentages, which is the ultimate form of stat creep. When was the last time any man, woman, or child used Heidi? Look me in the eyes. What does Heidi do? I know. Bards are just good for enmity. Yeah, but even then, Perfumer is usually better. And these days, most enmity just do not need bards. Ultimately, Sculptor was an exception, and Civilite Eterna is an exception. But somehow they managed to be consistently worse as an archetype than Hexes. It is basically never worth bringing a unit with terrible range and very bad healing. They cannot solo heal, and their buffs are almost never worth the effect. Skadi Alta used to be worth it because her stat buffs were the equivalent of an extra Elite 2. It was the difference between Popukar and level 90 Blaze. That is how absurdly high her stat buffs were. That is nothing to do with her archetype. That is just Sculptor being Sculptor. Also appear in my Pixiv search results, usually with Cal. Oh yeah, that's because Heidi flirts with Cal. When she was a kid, Heidi had a crush on Cal, and then when she got older, she started flirting with her. Bards heal via aura farming. They are. But they are a bad healer who is only usable with enmity units. And their healing is just not worth using. Sculptor was an exception. Civilite is used more often as a DPS or insert a meme hospital. That's it. They do not function as a healer as a standalone. They are bad at their core job, and their buffs are not relevant. Buffs are usually only worth applying to specific operators. That is why Warfarin has always been better than Sora. Their buff numbers are actually pretty similar. But Warfarin sees so much more use as a buffer than Sora because you want to apply it to a specific unit, you don't want to apply it spread out. Sculptor's good because she's a queen, exactly. Lapland for me is the funniest. Her lore is funny. Yeah, I agree. Heidi was spilling spaghetti meeting Cal in a suit. It was very funny. Teresa can even solo heal Surtur. Yes, but that is just raw stat creep. That is a Teresa thing. That is not a Bard thing. Try healing Surtur with Sora. Or Heidi. See how that goes. See how that one functions, Chief. I'm not surprised your official appeared in Talos 2 by chance. That one would be very funny. Am I late? Welcome in, Rogue! Slightly, sir, but there's no, it's not like I do fucking... Okay, actually, you know what? Good Oh, sorry, I forgot to do this earlier. Everybody, let's do attendance. Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mark the roll, everybody. Okay, raise your hand if you're here. Let's go through the class one by one. You are required to attend every South Heart content stream, South Heart paid content stream, especially to pay the taxes. Raise his hand. Hi. Welcome. Oh, okay, yeah, thank you. Fightmare, I'm gonna mark you as absent just to fuck with you. You've lost your GPA, and your future prospects are ruined. I did that on purpose, just for fun. Oh, welcome in Quintillion, welcome in Chibi, welcome in Centaur. Motherfucker, yeah. Can anybody vouch that Fightmare was here? I'm doing the roll right now. Okay, I'm gonna call out your name one more time. Fightmare. Yeah, I don't see him. Okay, Fightmare, you're marked as absent. Dave, you're also marked as absent just because, whoopsie, I circled the wrong box. That is gonna ruin your future. Welcome in, Marionette Novi. Lovely to have you. I'm going to bed. Sorry, Fightmore. It was only in good fun. But yeah, no. Jokes aside, obviously, you do not need to attend every stream, and it's lovely to have you, Rogue. Damn you, cutie. No, I'm not cute. And no, if you do need to go to bed, please sleep well, Fightmare. Now, next up, we have Abjuras. I don't need a GPA to be a fixer. Fracta, you don't need to be a fixer. Most people here don't even have context for what you're talking about. I thought I was gonna fail this semester. Yeah, you do fail the semester by not attending a South Art Violence stream. Yeah, by the way, we'll actually be having a pop quiz. So which of the true... Okay, 2 truths and a lie. My VTuber name... no, let's go one different. Pop quiz. 2 lies and a truth. My VTuber name is South. I'm bald. I work as a spy. 2 of those statements are false. 1 of them's true. Figure it out! You work as a spy? No! You're bald? No! You're a VTuber definitely not named South. No, that's my VTuber name! Correct! That's the one! You too, Ravioli! Welcome in BZA. Lovely to have you. All of them are fact. No, it's 2 lies and a truth. Your name is South Heart Violence, not South. No, my VTuber name is South. My handle is South Heart Violence. Don't worry about it. Okay, all facts, no lies. So true. I'm a bald, unemployed spy.
Chat,
You called
give
me.
money.
Okay, let's move on. Abjuras. Now, Abjuras. Deal arts damage. When skill is active, attacks instead restore the HP of allies. Does anybody remember, genuine pop quiz time, what Abjuras were like before their archetype was changed? Does anybody remember what they did before that? It was very bad. Medic with extra steps? Yes. Their damage is dog shit? Yes, it is. Exist? Pretty much. Anyway. Abjuras are not supporters. They are just medics. They're medics who don't heal. Are there good Abjuras? Yes. But that as an archetype, the archetype is terrible. Podenko's not even an Abjura. She's a Desselbinder. They're confusing medics? Exactly. They are confusing medics. Now, are there good ones? Yes. Haruka is the best medic in the game. Quirkus is also very good. Tsukunogi is the baseline for an Abjura, not Quirkus. Tsukunogi might go, yeah. Riddle me this. What's better? Fully healing your ally, or reducing damage they take by 10%? Truly, it's impossible to tell. Wow! We get a 10% damage reduction! And all it cost me was an entire deployment slot! So yeah, Abjuras are terrible. It's just that Haruka specifically is amazing. Even Silence Altar is terrible. I would actually put them below Solo Blades. I do think they're still better than Bards. They are better healers than Bards. Even Tsukunogi is better healing than, like, Sora. But as a whole, their archetype is inherently flawed. They are supporters who heal. That's called a medic. If the support you provide is restoring HP, you're a medic. So they're just medics who don't exist until you activate their skill. Bards just heal with the power of aura, they do. Use 10 Tsukunogis for 100% damage reduction. It doesn't stack, it's multiplicative. Chain healer has better heal? Yes, but chain healers have bigger problems. Legitimately. Chain healers, at their core, are more broken. Because they are actively painful to use. Abjurers just suck. It's very easy to use Abjurers. And once they start it being in use, they're very good at their job. Chain medics aren't. They always suck. You will never use a chain medic successfully. Tsukunogi's my second medic on my team after Cal. I'm sorry for your loss. Chain healers have a bigger elephant to fry. Exactly. Chain medics, the archetype is actively terrible and ruining otherwise good units. Any chain medic, if they're a different class, like Papyrus and Paprika, if they're a standard medic instead, they'd be drastically better. If they're an AoE medic instead, they'd be drastically better. So they're being completely fucked over by their archetype. This archetype has a problem, but they at least work well with it. I'm eating strawberry ice cream, God bless Valentine's, based. Multi-target healers if it healed one person, exactly. I'll not stand 9-color deer erasure. What do you mean erasure? She's only usable in the base. She's almost as bad as Tsukunogi. Which is really impressive, because Tsukunogi is one of the worst characters in the game. So, moving on. We have Artificers. Do you like buffers? Do you like buffers who need to be on a melee tile and can easily die? And also their buff sucks and is really inconvenient. So what if we took a bard, gave them 2 block and put them on a melee tile? They block 2 enemies and they can use support devices. The only redeeming quality they have is these support devices don't take deployment slots. As a whole, this archetype is bad. Because the support devices are not permanent. Meaning they're very finicky buffers. Meaning in every situation, it's better to just bring a DPS unit. Artificer should have been good, but yeah, it's met. Yeah, it had a lot of potential, but they need really strong buffs because they are very inconvenient. Their buffs are fucking irrelevant, man. Hey guys, do you like solving an ultra-hard Sudoku to give a 7% attack buff, which is the same amount that Swire gets passively for existing? Like, most Artificers provide a worse buff than Amiya's Guard version, which is global! It is just not worth bringing them. It is never worth bringing them. It is absolutely terrible. I would consider it legitimately worse than Arts Defenders. I would not consider it worse than Brawlers, though. They try to do 2 things and they suck. They're terrible guards and they don't buff enemies. Like, actually think about that. They're buffing guards who are worse than instructors in a lot of ways. The only reason they're better than instructors is at least their buffs do something. They are a side grade to instructors. Winflit is the baseline? Yeah, and he's terrible. Not worse than my instructors? No. I would not mark them as worse as instructors because at least their buffs are theoretically usable and you have control over them. Swire is definitely worse than Winflit, as much as I prefer her. I'd rather take Aya to buff my caster. Yeah, a lot of other units have passives that are better buffers than a dedicated buffer. Actually, stop and think about that. How fucked up is that? Like, legitimately think about that. Stop and think for a second. Units have talents, which are better than the kit of an Artificer. Not just their talent, the entire thing. That face when some modules just give more stats. Exactly. Also, welcome in, Squiggy. Lovely to have you. Now, at long last, the saving grace. There is, in fact, a single archetype of supporter who doesn't suck. Don't see Doberman? Oh, no, I have 1 character per archetype. So every character is recommending their entire archetype. So Swire is representing the archetype as a whole. There is a single supporter archetype which doesn't suck. Phantom is not the baseline. In my opinion, Virtuosa is. Much like casters, they need attack stat. So as a result, the 5 stars get hit really, really hard. However, Virtuosa's normal attacks very regularly apply elemental infliction. That is not the case for Blaze. They are legitimately better by a long shot at applying elemental affliction than elemental casters. As an archetype, they function very well. It is just they really need the stats, so Bobbing and Velakman really struggle. Going to sleep? Thanks for coming. Sleep well. Welcome in Visteria. Hi, South. Welcome in Joshua. The actual debuffer. Yes! The debuffers finally got a debuff. And it's really good. In my opinion, as an archetype, S tier. Holy shit! They apply a debuff, and the debuff makes it worth bringing them. Wow! What an idea! What if we make a debuff that doesn't suck? Calling it now. Please sleep well, boy. Thanks for coming. When is Gladia rank? We're gonna get up to her soon. Don't you worry. And welcome in, Sam. And I'm so sorry. Welcome back from the ads, broth. I'm sorry about that. The Cyclops lady from highest floor. Yes, Velakwan does exist. They have a bit of a flaw, and I will actually take them out of excellent. They do need their attack stat. But Virtuosa, without her skills, regularly applies the debuff. Just because of her attack stat. So all they need is extra attack that the 6 stars have. And that is the only flaw of the archetype. Even without her S1, Virtuosa's normal attacks will regularly apply the debuff. The debuff is very strong and it is worth bringing. And they have use cases outside of this debuff because of their damage. This is an actual functional debuffer. It is insane. If we're talking specifically about subclasses, either lower core caster or bring incantation medic to core casters, they're just casters that heal and cost 5. Yeah, but no, they are not as good as normal casters. Oh, thank you so much for the membership. Is there an archetype that's not useful? Yes, duelist defenders. You know what? Let me actually make this more clear. Add a row below. Sorry, let me, not quite that below. Duelist defender. I was feeling immoral about this. Is that a bit clearer to everybody? And thank you so much, Josh. That's very sweet of you. Where is Praminix? I'm doing it 1 character per archetype. I'm not ranking every character in the game. That bad, huh? Yes, that bad. Duelist defenders are actively non-functional. Every single piece of their kit works against themselves. Their talent is that they don't gain SP unless blocking. And then they have more attack power than the fucking Death Star. And enough range that very often they kill enemies before they block them. It's so stupid. The funniest thing is Aurora's the best one. Yeah, the best duelist defender is Aurora, whose talent is that when she's below an SP threshold, she stops attacking. That is how they had to fix it. Would be a nightmare to rank all 400 ops? Absolutely. They're better? I would not say so. I would say Hibiscus Altar is worse than Steward despite her rarity. They do very little damage. Duelist usable, but why don't they do Dreadnought? Well, they're vaguely usable, but they also cost 30 DP. Should have been at least 2 block? Yeah! They're the defender who gets the most out of blocking enemies, and they also have fucking 1 block. Every operator ranks for channel anniversary or something. What, you just want me to do a full tier list? I already did that. Okay, now that we finally have a good supporter out of the way, which, by the way, their talent is they deal arts damage and also inflict elemental injury. The same as elemental casters, but they don't suck at it. Now we're up to the final class of the day, specialists. My favorite. First off, while I fill up my water bottle, who out here pushing they stroker right now? think about that for a second while I fill up my water salt. So, earlier on, when I mentioned that the devs refused to use the community's nicknames, no matter how much sense they made, they actively refused to translate it to anything the community had used. The community called pushers, because they push. So because they refused to use our informal names for the archetypes, thanks Yostar, they decided to rename pushers to push strokers. What are they stroking? Why didn't they think of that? And you want to know what's even worse? There are 4 push strokers. 3 of them are female. Only the females have the Y module. They're just fucking with us. Only the women have it. Enforcer does not have the Y module.
I want
and for anyone who doesn't get what this means, so modules are abbreviated to the first 3 letters of the archetype for the X and Y modules. Unless it makes no sense, where sometimes they will instead have a different set of letters, but it is a 3-letter abbreviation. So they abbreviated pusher to PUS, and then gave exclusively the women the Y module, meaning you can equip pussy on all of your push strokers. I checked. Enforcer has the X module. It's only him that doesn't have it, because he doesn't have a pussy. They're doing this on purpose at this stage. They're just fucking with us. Like, this can't have been an accident. I don't get why they don't abbreviate it as PSH. They're just fucking with us. I don't get it either. They must be messing with us. Puss Y is not that bad considering SIEX. It is worse than SIEX. So yeah. Push stroker. Now that crash out is out of the way, here is what a push stroker does. Despite popular belief, here is their talent. Attacks all blocked enemies. Same as the Centurion. But they are also defined by their skills shifting enemies away from them. Also known colloquially as pushing. All in all, pushers are actually a very strong archetype. However, they were too good. So, before I rank them, let me real quick cover Hookmasters or Pullers. Now, interestingly, Hookmasters' archetype trait, is that their skills pull enemies. Pushers don't have that as part of their trait. It's part of the trait of the pullers, but it's not part of a trait of the pushers. For some reason. However, so, I am ranking these as the same because fundamentally they are the same, except pushers are better. Pushers knocking the enemy away from you is better for mitigating damage than pulling the enemy towards you, which is better in the majority of situations, even though it is map to map, so they're only slightly better. The problem is, Weedy came out. When the game first launched, push is on a scale of 0 to 3. It caps out at 3. Just in case anyone didn't hear that. Push can either be ranked 0, 1, 2, or 3. That is it. Those are the only rankings. Weedy hits push 7. Push force is exponential. So she just completely broke the fucking game. And now every enemy has a weight of 10. Because if they don't, we can infinitely push them. 7? Yes. It's so fucking stupid. 6, 7, I didn't even say the word 6. It's either great on current maps or decent stalling. Yeah, it's still amazing, but much like Lapland, They were too good at this mechanic, so the devs have had to balance around that for the rest of the game, and now it functionally doesn't exist. But as a whole, it is a very good archetype. I would, in my opinion, put Weedy there and Pullers there. Pullers are just a worse version of pushers in almost every situation. But situational units who are sometimes amazing and otherwise functional is the definition of a specialist. That is good game design. Part of the problem with supporters is all of their support sucks. Specialists are good at what they do and otherwise are fine. Boom. Exactly what you expect. Too bad Angelina cannot lower weight by 3 or more. I know, right? That would be tragic. Weedy broke the game. She did. Special uses. Yeah. So, let me get this right. Your push stroker's pussy has special uses, is what you're saying, Rogue Regen. Yeah, everybody get it out of your system. If you've got any puns about specialists, now's the time. 7, should I start upgrading her? She's in pot 4. These days, no. She's still all around an excellent unit, but she's mainly used as a guard. Push is mostly irrelevant. The CC that was trivialized because the Weedy was funny. It is so funny that they made Crown Slayer immune to push and silence. They were just like, fuck all of you. No, you need to engage in Crown Slayer's mechanics. You can't just turn them off. I want Weedy to push stroke my enraged possessed thrower. There you go, there you go. Hydrate? Yes, sir. Have we rated therapist? Yes, we have. Oh, thanks for the follow, Lemon Ties. Glad you're having fun. Ambusher pussy. Not how it works, but yes. Ambusher? I barely even know her! Gladia's a lane holder. Yeah, she's mainly a buff bot. It's funny that Gladia has a better buff than every supporter in the entire game. Like, actually stop and think about it. The best buffer is not a supporter. It's a specialist. The best supporter is a specialist. The best medic? That's a supporter. The best defender? Actually, that's a guard. The best anti-air unit, that's actually, sorry, bad news for you. That's actually a caster. Oh, what's the best source of arts damage? Oh, that's actually a defender. Sorry, whoopsie. In case I understand, you're probably a bit confused. Best medic, oh, that's also a defender. That's either a supporter or a defender, depending on situation. They're just shitposting. Alrighty, now moving on to more interesting archetypes. Pushers and pullers were incredibly interesting when the game first came out. They have not held up. However, the rest of them, in my opinion, every single one has. Specialists are meant to specialize, yes. And they are generally well balanced. Now, this might sound crazy to say, but executors used to be the best balanced archetype in the entire game. Welcome in, Kai. Welcome in, L. South Heart spreadsheets. What gave you that impression? I put them in awful. Are you spreading and then shooting? Anyway, it might sound crazy to say, executors used to be the best balanced archetype in the entire game. Every single executor had a defined niche over the others. Project Red, Phantom, Gravel, and Waifu were all incredible. Then they released Texas Alta and Kiran Ayato. And now the archetype doesn't exist. Because Kiran Ayato and Texas Alta are just guards that insta-kill enemies. The archetype trait is significantly reduced redeploy time. All in all, it is a very strong, solid archetype. They made them way too strong, and they fucked up the balancing. But the archetype itself is not at fault, and they have an inherent use case, but they're not quite excellent. Because ultimately, their use case relies on you fucking up. Because a character, it is better to have a character on field than to remove the character from the field and put him back. Arguably, Red is still decent. I agree, but it's copium. I'm just also a Project Red fan. From throwing stones to grenades? Yeah, they turned from stones into nuclear warheads. Top 3 sources of true damage is all medics. I know, right? It's so stupid. Vita fans in shambles. I'll never not bring him into a stage just like Cherry Bomb and Jalapeno. Exactly. They are basically, if it wasn't for agents, I would still put them in excellent. The problem is, a lot of the time, agents can actually fill their job. Agents, as an archetype, directly power crept executors, agent vanguards. They are also fast redeploys, and they do a lot else. So, back in the day, I would put them as excellent. But these days, their main job is to mitigate fuck-ups. So if you don't make fuck-ups, you don't really need them. And agents are better at their job. It's just Texas and Kirito are specifically insane. What? Medics deal true damage. Monster, Amiya, and Kalzi. All of who outperform Vina. When does Ave Mujika go live? I don't know, because mate happens over my bedtime. So I'll be asleep. Like 6 hours or so. Best of luck to everyone who's pulling. Next up, ambushes. Now, South. You might be thinking South. You are well known. Ambusher enjoyer. You love ambushes. You love Ascalon. I do. However, they are not as good as you think they are. The archetype trait is that they do damage to all enemies in range and have a 50% chance to dodge physical or arts. They have anti-taunt and they have 0 block. That is an awesome archetype, but it is not excellent because their stat spread fucking sucks. Why is their attack stat so low? I don't get it. We're so close to being amazing, and then they just decided, you know what? Let's give them a lot of HP. Let's give them a lot of HP to make them survivable, despite the fact that they have anti-taunt and invisibility. Ascalon who? Ethan's the best ambusher. Mods ban that guy. Jokingly, by the way, I don't have mods. My Manticore has not been used at all recently because of Ascalon. Yeah, Ascalon is good despite her archetype, not because of it. However, the archetype is still good. I would say it is about on par with, it is a slightly better version of Reaper Guards. They specialize more into doing better AoE, but they have slow attack speed. They do have defined weaknesses, but in my opinion, they're just a better version of Reaper Guards because they have true AoE with a better range and are easier to take advantage of that AoE because they basically are not at risk of dying. I see ambushes over other ambushes, yes, but that is not their archetype. Just as a whole, the archetype is really good. 0 block, true AoE, anti-taunt. Very good DPS unit. So why the fuck is their attack stat so low? That's the bit I'm complaining about. Ethan jump scare. I don't see Ethan. He's not on screen because he doesn't exist.
Mods, twist his balls.
So true.
Mods, lift him by the leg and wiggle their arm. Colonel, can you come pick me up from school? My tummy hurts.
Next up! Now, you might be thinking, South, why are you covering the screen? That is because I'm talking about geek specialists. And unfortunately, Exusier and Spuria do not represent geeks properly. Meaning I need to talk about Ak. It is very, very unfortunate. Exia ignores the archetype, just outright. They also completely changed the archetype for her. Now, you might be thinking, what do you mean they ignore the archetype? Here is the archetype trait. Continually loses HP over time. That's it. That's their trait. That's what defines them. Oh, I'm being forced to say this, but I agree.
Yes, I love Walter so much. I have Ak Pumpo with extra goody meds.
I didn't see the second half of that sentence. How could you do this to me, Postana? Master Chief, why are you in that blanket?
Sir, security camera.
Ah, that's a different meme. Don't worry about that. Ak is immortal stunt enabler, though. Yes. So, now. The archetype fucking sucks butt. Exclamation point. They have really good stats to make up for the fact that they kill themselves. Much like merchants, they are actually really well designed. Where they have a major downside and then a massive stat sticks to make up for that. Unfortunately, they are actually really solid. I don't know what it is. They can't stop hitting when it comes to specialists. It's a really good archetype. But no. They have a major debuff where they will gradually kill themselves, and in exchange, they have all-around excellent damage and stats. Despite how much I meme on her, even Spuria has really good stats. Unfortunately, while dying, they do their job well. Yeah, exactly. You can ignore it with medics. You can, but that does necessitate a second unit, which is the downside. S3 can free summon people. I would not call Axe S3 a free summon, Fightmare. I don't know what to tell you. Unlike merchants, the problem is merchants got hit harder and faster with power creep, and had less sort of inherent use case, and there's more of them. Actually, no. Them being good is a coincidence. I'm lowering it. I'm not putting Ack that high. They're functional. They literally kill themselves. They just happen to have slight stat sticks and they're functional as stat sticks. Everything that makes Ack good is part of his skills, as evidenced by the fact that Spuria sucks. Do they bleed out to the point of retreat? No. They modified that with Xtuzier's release. So, yeah, they used to. They used to game over themselves. Now they're much more like Fear Meta. Now that I actually stop and think about it, they just have higher than average stats and kill themselves. That's fine. That's a solid archetype. If it was good, Spuria would be good. But she doesn't. She's not. She's terrible. They reduced HP loss. Yeah, it used to be 3 HP per second. Now it's 3%. Now it's 1%. So you take a third of the damage you used to. Exialta's downside is negligible. 70 attack speed for the big shield. Yeah, it is crazy good. So, no. Ack being good is thankfully independent of his archetype. Unfortunately, it means I need to acknowledge Ack is good, which sucks. Now, moving on, because I would rather talk about literally any other archetype, because Ack. Merchants. Merchants are what geeks, they thought they were geeks. We have geeks at home. For the okay, hear me out. Trade offer. I receive all of your DP. Not some. All. In exchange, you receive a slightly better Dreadnought card. Like, actually stop and think about that. They are slightly better versions of Dreadnought cards that cost all of your DP. They're so fucking bad. They used to be okay, but they do physical damage. So they're just gonna keep getting worse and worse. There's a reason they had to give them modules that remove their fucking downside. Fast redeploy? Yeah, but every fast redeploy and agent are drastically better. If you're looking for a fast redeploy unit, you're using a fast redeploy. You're not bringing out fucking Mr. Nothing. Like, Lee is not the baseline. Mr. Nothing is. 3 DP every 3 seconds, drain your wallet. Exactly. I can't believe my Swire Summer arc is sad. I like Swire Alta. She plays into the archetype well, similar to Monster, where they make the best of a really bad archetype. But at the end of the day, the archetype is terrible. The archetype is they have reduced redeploy time, but they refund no DP when you retreat them, and every second they deploy, they take DP. They completely nullify your natural DP. Any DP debuff means you cannot bring them to the stage. They're completely ruled out. They will retreat themselves, and they will keep your DP at 0 otherwise. I just realized South is a merchant archetype. Let me guess, because it's paid content. DP is not an issue with flag bearers, agents, and Silver Ash. Yeah, but you understand that even with a flag bearer, they make DP an issue. That's like saying taking damage isn't an issue because you have Shu on the field. Some characters can still die. I know. How many of you have never seen a unit die while Shu is on the field? I wouldn't blame you. It's hard to believe death exists. Have you ever played a game of Arknights with your life on the line? Jay's a solid unit? Yeah, but that's because of his debuffs and healing. Jay is not a solid unit because of his archetype. He's a solid unit because of his skills. Which is why every other one of the archetype is atrociously bad. The fact that Jay is the best merchant really says it all. Their stats are not worth the cost. Have you ever played Arknights while trying to use Korra to hold the line? Yes. She's very tanky. Next up, Trap Masters. Now, here is what The effect of a Trapmaster is can use traps to assist in combat, but traps cannot be placed on tiles already occupied by enemies. That's pretty solid. Sounds pretty good. So, there's this one small thing. Trapmasters are just anti-air snipers, but better. They have higher stat spread and faster attack speed. And then, in addition to that, summon very cheap spammable ground nukes. In any situation where you do not require the targeting, Dorothy or Robin are better than anyone but Eku, where she just has raw offensive shred. And that is not counting their traps. I'm talking fucking normal attacks. There is a reason Ella is so disgustingly strong, and that is they are just anti-air snipers with better stats who also summon things. Better summoners? Yeah, they are anti-air snipers plus summoners, and better than both of them. I don't have Shuai Pot 6 Ling. Tragic. They should have removed the air targeting. No, they don't. No, they're a ranged unit. It makes sense for them to target air. When Saki account pulls, tomorrow for me. So like 20 hours from now. Welcome in, Imoto. The traps don't cost deploy slots. No, and they're spammable. In my opinion, this is a genuinely top tier archetype. I think this is too strong. I think this archetype needs a nerf. I think it is better than loop masters, but obviously not loop shooters, but not as good as healing defenders. Who has the best traps beside Ella? Dorothy, whose traps are directly better than Robin. Unless you're counting CN stuff, in which case, obviously, the most recent trap master is the best trap master. But is anybody surprised by that? We get another limited trap master, so yeah, and that trap master completely ignores the only downside, which is that you can't place traps on tiles enemies are on. Dorothy's good. Yes, Dorothy is incredible. She has a 6-second bind on her S2 every trap, which also deals like 10,000 damage, and she outperforms Platinum in terms of raw DPS. In addition to the traps. She is really good. The stat spread on Trap Masters is disgusting. It is an agent level stat spread. It is a Lord Guard level stat spread. I have no idea what the fuck they were thinking to just randomly make them this strong. Like, the traps are already good. Why are they also so absurd? You can take me out of hand-holding whenever. No worries, you're fine, Kai. I've already done that stream, so the wheel was already reset. I've seen the damage on Trap Masters. They're insane. Yeah! Robin outperforms Cruz the Keen Glint in terms of DPS without her traps. Does W count as a trap master? No, she does not. She does not. She is a special case. Back in the day, all of the limited characters in every anniversary, they all, not even necessarily limited, but all, anniversary characters were designed around really unique mechanics, which is why Cowsey is a weird medic and Rosmontis and W are very weird snipers. Robin's so goated, she is. Unfortunately, Dorothy directly power crept her. Dorothy is legitimately just Robin, but better, unfortunately. Cruz is my favorite character of all time, and therefore she's stronger than Wishadel. Yeah, man, you can huff Mizuki's armpits all you want. I have meta units and I don't use them because I don't know. You're fine, you're fine. I wouldn't call her meta, but treat Trap Masters as anti-air snipers without the targeting, but better stats. They're just really good snipers who also happen to have traps. Like, the worst Trap Master is still a really good anti-air sniper. Next up, Doll Keepers. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. How do I describe this? Despite the fact that inherently the archetype of a Doll Keeper. Let me start by reading that off. When you receive lethal damage, swap to a substitute with 0 block. Then 20 seconds later, swap back. They are immortal DPS blockers. It is exceptionally rare for them to die. Most of them are also kind of bad. Their stat spread is really not very good. However, they are self-sustaining, unkillable 2-block guards. So it's... half of their kit is so disgustingly strong that it feels like they should be an instant excellent. But then their stats suck. So they can't really kill enemies. So I'm gonna put them in... I'm gonna put them in the middle of great. I'm gonna put them there. Because in my opinion, La Pluma is better than the Archetype. The Archetype, in theory, is amazing. But this is a very rare case of abysmal stat spread. They took what should have been the best Archetype in the game and made it feel bad. They made it too balanced. It needs to be slightly goofier. Not better than Dronecasters? Actually, yeah, I would say they're worse than Dronecasters. I would also put them below AoE Medics. I would put them above Wandering Medics. Their use case is still Immortal 2-block guard, which is just insane. It's just, what's the point of being immortal if you do nothing? Like, I love the Archetype. I've loved the Archetype since Bina. I love Kazumaru. I love Spectre Alta. They don't do much damage. So, yeah, it's great to have a 2-block who doesn't die, but that's pretty much it. That's all they do. They never kill enemies. It's not that they're actively terrible DPSs, it's just that the DPS is not on par with actual DPSs. Imagine Dollkeeper, but Blaze S2. To be fair, I get why they're weak, otherwise they would be so stupidly game-breakingly broken. Speaking of, I'ma do Alchemists last, while we're on the topic of game broken. Sky Ranger. Does anyone disagree or need elaboration? Anybody confused? Imagine if Spectre Doll was a standard operator. I know, that would be insane. So, here is what a Sky Ranger does. Upon taking off, which is triggered by their skills, it is a special status effect, they become flying units, and they can block flying units. Now, this is a small side effect where the game wasn't designed with this in mind. Most ranged enemies can't target flying enemies, including most drones. So, they are, with the exception of Chapter 8 drones, immortal. And unlike Dollkeepers, they do damage and also do something unique, which is blocking drones. Which, by the way, lets Rosmontus' S2 hit them, because she attacks all blocked enemies. They're ambushes on the sky. Yeah, they're basically ambushes with more control. And to be fair, in the future, they will go down this tier list. Eventually, the devs will start balancing around this and rectify the issue. But the game was not designed with this in mind. In the future, I think they will be... here. I think they are worse than ambushes as an archetype. I do. The problem is the game is not coded around them. Currently, they are the best archetype in the game. Because they just completely remove an entire class of enemies. Ranged and drone units just don't exist. There are just so many weird interactions. So currently, I would rank them there, but I'm going to try to future-proof the tier list. I think they go here. Because realistically, their damage isn't that absurd. Their stat spread is pretty solid, but they do have a moment of weakness when they're on the ground, and they're discount Lord Guards with drastically lower stats. They're not just discount Lord Guards. Insane damage, pretty good defense. Actually, wait, shit, no, you're right. Fuck, okay, I forgot Contrail was a 4-star with a 4-star stat spread. Fuck. I'm gonna put him there. I'm gonna put him there. The ability to take off is disgustingly strong. And you're right. Contrail is a good DPS despite being a 4-star, due to her stat spread. So the 6-star is going to be game-breaking. So I'm gonna call my shot. I think the 6-star Sky Ranger, that's the term, will be as good or at least comparable to Tragodia and Exusier 2. I'm calling it now. When we eventually get a 6-star of these motherfuckers, that is the level of game breaking they're going to be. Welcome in, Asherid. Lovely to have you. You mean Rosmontis S3? Yes, sorry, I do mean her S3, which is attack blocked enemies. Contrail is still good as a 4-star? Yeah. Tippy basically is more stuff that's better than Contrail. Yeah, but Contrail's cheap. That's why people level up. Okay, now, lucky last. And one final embarrassing South Heart stories. Alchemist specialists can throw alchemical units to assist.
Please, chat, give me money.
Now, I'm stupid. It doesn't make sense to me. The debuffs and the buffs all feel terrible, even though they're not. I don't know where to put them. Tin Man only? Yeah, like, if we're judging by Tin Man, he's okay. They're a very solid jack-of-all-trades class. But they're also very confusing. Cat mid? No, I'm leaning towards bad. Because inherent... it's just very confusing. They're just not really worth the amount of effort. Actually, no. I would definitely... They're definitely better than Artificers. That's 100%. How are they confusing? I don't understand how they work. You've got to understand something. It took me 6 months to learn Shu. I think they're a strong class, wide range, arts, constant AoE, cheap cost. I agree. It's just... Much like summoners, they're difficult to use. If they were a bit simpler, I would put them in the greats. But I do think they go down to okay, or even... I'll put them in cat tier. I'll put them in cat tier above single target medics. Because they are very good, but they require thought and planning. Like, Wishadel doesn't need that. Tragodia doesn't need that. Lord Guards don't need thought and planning. Alchemists do. So, while as a class, they're overall really good stat spread, they do a lot. Their alchemical units are very versatile, and I expect them to be a very good class going forward. They remind me a lot of summoners, where they're just inconvenient to use, so it is almost always better to use someone else who's just simpler. Jack of all trades, master of none. I agree. I think they're an example of a jack of all trades done decently. I just think they're too complex. Like, they require too much brain power. Mason effect area in an attack direction, heals allies and damage. No, but it changes per alchemical unit. Every alchemical unit does slightly different shit. Like, they have some consistencies, but not always. Tin Man's hiding an IS-5. Yes, he is. He very much is. Power creep, AoE regeneration. Yeah, but not all of them do that. That's the thing. Like, you guys are looking at the alchemists we have now and saying every alchemist will be like that. No, that is not part of their trait. That is what those alchemists do. They only require good positioning and skill timing and thought. This is kind of like how back when Pazemka was new, people didn't think of a typewriter as a debuff. They thought the typewriter doesn't matter, it's not a weakness. It is a weakness. Having to plan out where you're deploying your operators, because otherwise they will not function, is a major weakness. Obviously, you should be doing that anyway, but having them be actively bad if you don't actively plan it out, that's kind of pain. By that metric, alchemists don't need a lot of thought, just the ones we have now. I cannot imagine a world where any alchemist is simple. Alchemists are basically artificers done right, where they do enough impact to justify using, but at the same time, it's still inconvenient. It is still much more convenient to bring a healer if you want healing, or bring a damage dealer if you want damage done. So they're a good middle ground, but there's no real area where they are the best, if that makes sense. Skill timing, what's that with modules? Skill timing is a myth. I know, but that's Thorns. That's not them as a whole. Laughs in S3 Lapland Altar. Exactly. Who would you rather bring out? Thorns or Lapland S3? Store charges, throws it. Yeah, but like, there's a lot of conditionals. There's just a lot of thought you need to put in on how to use them. They have a unique form of targeting. Some of them can hit enemies, some of them target your allies, some of them do slow, some of them don't, some of them heal, some of them don't. They do a lot of things, and it's just a case of, it just gets confusing. Porkin or Lastos, exactly. Welcome in, Suki! You're overcomplicating Posey. Placing the typewriter is increase the damage shred. Yeah, but it's still a downside. Like, you can't just calculate Posey's shred assuming... and damage assuming the typewriter will always be there, because it's inconvenient. They can also heal and target summons. Yeah, but not all of them. Tin Man S1 can't. Welcome in, Lude! Every unit, if you place them bad, is awful. No. If you place them bad, they're bad. It's more a case of everyone needs some degree of thought, but with alchemists, you really do need to know what the fuck they do. And that might sound crazy, but let me put it to you this way. Do you need to understand what Shu does for Shu to be good? No. You have a core idea of she is a healing defender. I probably put her near my units. And if you do that, nobody on your team dies. Yes, actually, no you don't. Even when I had no fucking clue what Shu does, I would set her down and she would do absolutely fine. I love Shu, I do too. 5.5 hours starving. Lovely to have you. Oh, 5.5 hours is the maintenance? Okay, so it's 7 hours for the actual event. Tin Man S1 is regen, so it does heal summons an enmity. Does it? Okay, I thought it did. So, look, okay. If you disagree on alchemists, you know, how about this? I'll make a special tier. I'll make a special tier called... I don't fucking know, brain damage. How about that? Is that an acceptable interim? Are you content with this change? That is my personal opinion. They are just too confusing. I come to Arc Knights to turn my brain off. Let's bring down core casters to incantation medics. Stop coping. No, I'm not coping. You're very clearly biased to read the Flame Show horror. You're very clearly biased to read the Flame Shadow. Compare Steward to Hibiscus. Steward, the 3-star with no frills and whistles, to Hibiscus, a fairly solid 5-star incantation medic. She is terrible. Thorn's Altar can give Hoda a defense, and that's very funny. It is very funny, but he's confusing. So look, I cannot correctly rate Thorn's Altar. I don't get it. This isn't a bit. I'm just dumb. Hibiscus is better overall. Yeah, she's like 3% better than a 3-star. That's the problem. Tin Man heal is S2. I thought his S2 is the healing and S1 was raw damage. 90% of core casters are hot ass. Yeah, but their core role is do arts damage. Incantation medics is do damage sometimes and heal sometimes. So instead of being a full medic or a full caster, they're half and half. And that is usually not a good split. That's all I'm saying. If you disagree, that's fine. Part of the reason... Okay, here's a better example of why I consider that. The reason Guardian Defenders are so incredible is they're not deciding if they're a medic or a defender. They're both. They are very tanky defenders who are very good medics. They don't compromise. They just do two things. Incantation medics compromise on their damage and their healing. They do some damage for some healing instead of being an outright DPS or an outright healer. That is why I personally think the archetype as a whole is bad, even though there are good units within that archetype. I consider Reed to be top 20 units in the game. She's amazing, but that's not because of her archetype. That's because of her skills. Are they better core casters on text, or are we comparing specific operators? Well, okay, let me put it to you this way. If a 3-star outperforms or performs equivalent to a 5-star, that is a sign that there is something very wrong with that 5-star. However, Hibiscus's kit doesn't have any problems. If Hibiscus was a core caster, she would function better than if she was an incantation medic. That is an example of her archetype holding her back. I'll have to show you a diagram of how easy they are. No, I get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. You don't want to explain his kit, because then you wouldn't have an excuse to genuinely rate him. No, Soup. It took me 6 months to learn how Shu works. Why are you acting like this is a Machiavellian conspiracy of me pretending to not understand alchemists? It took me 9 months to figure out Tin Man's S2. They don't make sense to me. That's not a bit. You guys are acting like people just can't be bad at certain things in video games. Some archetypes do not make sense to me, this being one of them. How does it take 6 months to figure out Shu? I couldn't figure out how a teleport gimmick worked. And then I did a paradox simulation, and it actually explained it very well, but it wasn't out when I was using it. Skill issue? Yes, sir. I was using A Alta S3 for a year before realizing S1 existed. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, that's just how it goes. Anyway. If only we could read something like that. Yeah, well, I tried reading it and it confused me. Because I learned by using, and her paradox sim explained it to me. S2, throw it and heal. No, you don't use Shu's S2. You use her S1. That's my Archetype streamer. Yes, sir. You forgot about Frostleaf. Frostleaf isn't an archetype. She's a Lord God. She's just a notable example where she specifically is terrible, but that's because of her kit, not because of her stat spread or her archetype. Her archetype is exceptional. Her stat spread is great. That is why she is still a functional unit, despite the fact that you can't get her to E2. Ian can't read moment. Yes, I'm aware. Anyway, if you disagree, I will be posting the tier list in the Discord. Feel free to argue with me there, or in the YouTube comment section. If you haven't already and you like tier list content, please consider liking the stream. And if so, I will keep trying to think of random goofy tier. Oh, whoops. Sorry, I had a meme open of the armpit licking meme, and I accidentally clicked on that. Anyway, if you enjoyed the stream, please do consider liking the YouTube. That is how you indicate I like this content. Please make more of it. And this was a very, very fun one, even though obviously there will be some I got quote-unquote wrong. I tried my best to be as objective as possible, but everyone has personal biases, and you can't always overcome these. Second account, Archetype ranks Pioneer, okay, Solo Blade bad. Yeah, please, I would agree, Solo Blade bad, I agree with you. Also, welcome in Duragano. Armpit Bakushin, yes, that mean. Raiding today? Yes, I will be finding someone to raid. The skill literally tells you, I tried reading it, it just didn't make sense to me. Anyway, thank you so much for coming, YouTube. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. Best of luck, everyone, to your Ave Muja couples if you're pulling for them, and I will be pulling this time tomorrow. And by this time, I mean like 3 hours before now, so 21 hours from now. And I will also be doing viewer pulls for anyone interested, but no stress. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the stream. It massively helps out. And I will catch you next time. Thank you so much for coming. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.